you, could you let us know?
I will.
Otherwise, we will assume no one from the public is with you.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start by going through our procedures. Most of you know it, but I think it's important to go through it for those that don't know. We start with public communications on a matter that's not on the agenda, but within the board's purview. Then we go to the consent calendar, after which the board will address whether to reorder the agenda. And then we'll proceed to the regular order of business. For the regular order of business, I will introduce an item. Then the board members will do their ex parte communications. Those are communications they had concerning each of the agenda item prior to the meeting tonight. The staff will then present a summary presentation and comments. We will have the opportunity to question staff at that point. After that, I will declare the public hearing open. It will begin with the applicant team who will be at the front desk here, who will have 5 minutes for their presentation, after which we'll open it to the members of the public who wish to comment on the agenda item. And members will have 3 minutes each. We will hold that to strict, so watch your comments accordingly. After which the board will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and the public and the staff. When the questions have been answered, I will close the public hearing, and the board at that point will commence deliberations and will make any decision it determines to make at that time. Any action by the board requires a motion, a second, and then the vote will be taken, and it must pass by the majority of the board members. If any person residing within 300 feet of a project who disagrees with the board action will have 14 days to file an appeal. So with that, we will start with the public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak, please come to the podium on a matter within the purview of the board, but not on an agenda, not on the agenda. I'm not seeing anybody. We'll proceed to the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of 3 sets of minutes, and we'll take them as a group. It is 4.1, which is the minutes from our July 24, 2025 meeting. 4.2, the August 14, 2025 meeting minutes. And lastly, the September 11, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there any comment or questions about the minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3.
Second.
Thank you. Paula, call the roll.
Board Member Balta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
I can only do yes as to 4.1 and 4.2, and as to 4.3, I abstain because I was not at that meeting. All right, so let's go to the regular business. We'll start with 5.1, which is 250 Glen Street, Design Review 25-1431, Coastal Development Permit 25-1432, Variance 25-1433, and Revocable Encroachment Permit 25-1434. And the request is to have it continued to November 13, 2025. Is that right?
No, it's not, sir.
What is the date?
Thank you, Chair Gibbs, and good evening, board members. Staff is requesting that the item be continued to November 6th, which will be a special meeting of the Design Review Board.
All right. Any public comment on that item? Seeing none, is there any questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve 5.1 located at 2500 Glen Street. This project is being continued to November 6th, 2025.
I'll second that. Paula, could you call the roll?
Board Member Balta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes. The next item is The next item is 5.2, which is 2647 Glen Eyrie Street, and that's design review 25-1678. That the request is to continue that item to a date uncertain. Looking to Bill, is that correct? There's been no date.
That is correct. Yeah, to a date uncertain. Thank you.
Okay, any members of the general public wish to speak on that item? Seeing none, any comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve 5.2 located at 2647 Glen Eyrie Street. This is continued to a date uncertain.
Second.
Pollock, please call the roll.
Board Member Belta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed 5-0.
Okay, the next item I'll call if the applicant could come to the table. It's 5.3. It's at 2811 Ridge Drive, design review 25-1593. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I had a site visit with James Henry.
I went by the site and I had a call with James Ward Henry II.
I did the same as MJ.
Board Member Lewis?
Same, and I'd request an expedited hearing on this one.
And I concur with the expedited hearing, and I met Mr. Henry at the site. So, Mr. Cerna, it's your turn. Expedite, please.
Will do. Let's see. All right. Good evening, Chair Gibbs and the members of Design Review Board. My name is Izzy, and item 5.3 is a request for design review at 2811 Ridge Drive, which is located in the R1 zone. The project site, the proposed work is requesting a design review includes a new in-ground swimming pool, a spa, and associated pool and spa equipment. Staff believes that the project meets the design review guidelines and the proposed work is compatible with surrounding properties in the neighborhood and does not substantially impair views, privacy, and would be compatible with the development present in the neighborhood. Staff's recommendation is to conduct a public hearing and adopt Resolution 25-1593, approving design review 25-1593, and finding said action exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15303, and new construction or new conversion of small structures. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, Mr. Henry, I open the public hearing. You have 5 minutes.
Well, you guys understand the project. It's simple. It's a full pool on a flat rear of a flat lot. I'm just going to ask and be available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any members of the public wish to speak on this project? Seeing none. Any further comment? You have 3 minutes? Nope.
Nope.
All right. Any questions from the board? Seeing none. Deliberations. Jess, you get to go.
This
know
is
you
a
like
this is a slam dunk. It's a easy project. It's a modest pool, a lap pool, exercise pool. You have the equipment vaulted, so it won't be disruptive for the neighbors, and I can approve this project.
MJ?
I concur with my board member. And I'll leave it at that. It meets design review criteria.
Emir?
I concur with fellow board members. I think this meets the design guidelines for a swimming pool, and I can approve this tonight.
Board Member Weil?
Yes, and I concur with my colleagues that can support the project this evening. It's design review compatible, and I believe the balance of privacy is achieved within the program. So I'm supportive of the project.
Thank you, as am I. I think it has, the project has no impact on neighbors, which is reflective of the fact that no neighbors have submitted any objection. Motion, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 25-1593, approving design review 25-1593 for the property located at 2811 Ridge Drive and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15303.
Second that.
Call the roll, please.
Board Member Belta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed 5 to 0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the next one if the applicant could come to the table. It's 5.42755 Park Avenue, Design Review 25-1566. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I drove by the site.
MJ?
I went by the site and met with the neighbor on Alta Laguna.
I visited site and I met with the neighbor in Alta Laguna as well.
Board Member Weil?
Visited the site, met with Shelley and Stephen briefly, and Monica was there briefly. But I visited the site, yeah.
All right, I went to the site and met there with Monica and the homeowner, Cyrus, and I also met with Stephen Shelley Sasaki. With that said, staff, could you do the presentation?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Design Review Board. Item 5.4 is request for design review for exterior material changes and the installation of decorative chimney shrouds located at 2755 Park Avenue. The property is located within the R1 zone near the intersection of Park Avenue and Alta Laguna Boulevard. It is improved with a 1 single-family dwelling, 1 detached garage, a detached carport, and a detached ADU and guest room. The proposed project consists of removing the existing stucco, installing a stone veneer across all elevations of the single-family dwelling and the detached structures, with some portions of the detached structures retaining the stucco and only repainting with a like-for-like color. The project also includes the installation of decorative copper chimney shrouds on 2 existing chimneys attached to the single-family dwelling. The shrouds measure approximately 2.5 feet tall by 2.5 feet wide and will enclose the existing spark arresters. As noted in the staff report, these shrouds were previously installed without permits that resulted in a code enforcement case, which remains unresolved until a decision is rendered on the design review entitlement. Staff has received public correspondence for the chimney shrouds, which includes view equity concerns regarding coastline, ocean, and whitewater views. Overall, staff finds the project consistent with the design review criteria and recommends that the board conduct a public hearing, consider all the public testimony, and adopt the attached resolution approving design review and finding said action exempt from CEQA. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Any questions?
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead.
For staff. Sarah, recently, I recall hearing this project when we approved the roof modifications, say 5-6 years ago. I can't quite recall. But I wasn't able to find what the original approval for the roof was when it came to the chimney at that time. Do you still have that? Were the chimney stacks approved to be shorter, or how were they configured in the prior approval?
To my knowledge, the chimneys were approved along with the roof modification, which included raising the roof line that ultimately encroached into the front yard setback, which included a variance. I don't think the chimneys were modified at that time.
So this
Go ahead, Louis.
so we don't have a reflection of how high they were approved at and where that is today.
Right. To my knowledge, I don't believe they were modified at the time when the roof was raised.
Let me ask you this, was the chimney subject to that prior application, which was approved by DRB when, about 2020? Do you know?
No, it was not subject to design review.
Okay. Any,
I have a
MJ?
question. The fireplaces in the house are gas?
I believe they are wood.
They're gas fireplaces. Okay. So is there a need for a spark protector? What's a gas igniter or a gas? Well, that's different. No, no, gas fireplaces.
We'll get to that with, let's
Well,
get
no,
to that with the applicant, and then we'll follow up with
okay.
that question so we can get an answer to that. Any other questions? Well, applicant address that in your comments, if it's a wood burning or pure gas fireplace.
Mhm. I was just going to add, I had several conversations with the building division about this. And a fireplace could be both gas and wood. But really, the fireplace and the spark arrestor come as a kit. So modifying either one, they both always have to be compatible with one another. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think a good question. I didn't mean to cut you off. So the spark arrestor is necessary then?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
And actually,
Go ahead.
I know there's gas igniters and I know there's gas fireplaces, and gas fireplaces have fake logs and they don't actually burn wood. When you transfer a fireplace to a gas log fireplace, that does not take wood logs anymore.
I have
It doesn't-
a gas fireplace that does burns wood. It can have both, either or. But we'll figure this out.
Yeah,
when it comes time.
why don't we go to the applicant? We can address that in deliberations or questions with staff, because I don't know that we have the expertise. Maybe that's something we can talk about a little bit more. Yeah. All right. With that, I open the public hearing. You have 5 minutes, applicant. Got to turn on your.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your time to review my client's project and for coming out to the Gdinian residence for a site visit. I'm Monica First, the designer, and this is my client and homeowner, Cyrus Gdinian. We are proposing the addition of an exterior Jerusalem stone and 2 new chimney shrouds. As you may know, the exterior stone was previously approved on February 2022 from a previous architect. However, the 2-year timeframe has expired. The addition of the 2 new chimney shrouds will go over the existing spark arresters. The width and depth stacks directly on top of the existing chimneys. Their home is a single story, and majority of the homes in the neighborhood are 2 stories. As you may have noticed from the surveyed site plan and exterior elevations, they are under their 25-foot height limit. From the top of their roof ridge, they are 10 feet under their allowable height. I walked the neighborhood and knocked on doors to verify if anyone had issues with the chimney shrouds. I have met and spoke many times on the phone and texts with Shelley Sasaki, the neighbors directly behind the Gdinians. My clients are within their height limits and not asking for any variances. They meet the city guidelines and ensure that there are no avoidable adverse impacts on the public health, safety, and general welfare. If you have any questions about our projects, we'd be happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members of the public, you can come up and speak now. Are you desiring to speak? Do you have to come up to the podium? This is your opportunity. Yeah, I'd like, everybody who's going to speak should either be waiting in line or sitting in a seat along the line so we can keep this moving. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, members of the board. Thank you for your service. I appreciate the visits, the site visits, and yeah, I'll try and keep it brief. I wrote letters, and so I think probably overstated our opinions, but I just wanted to say that, you know, in casual observations about the shrouds in the neighborhood, it seems like they, in general, you know, try and minimize, I'd say more try to blend in with the chimneys rather than stand out. And in our view, you know, from the way that we're looking at it, it essentially, the proposed chimney shrouds essentially double the size of the chimney, which, I mean, to us is a pretty significant impact. And so we feel like there's opportunities to make the shrouds smaller and, you know, to have some sort of balance to not impact our view as much, and also, you know, allow them to have their opportunity to, you know, have a design feature that would be pleasing to them. And also the material, I know within the staff report, they said that the glare will be, over time, will patina, but, you know, our view is that it should be a material that will have no glare from the beginning. And, you know, for us, it degrading or patina over time is not a positive, turning to a different color. So we really feel like something that would blend into the background and, be a material that would be consistent throughout would be the way to go. And, I just hope that the DRB will be able to find a balance between, what we truly believe is a view impact, the way that it creates a focus or sort of stands out rather than blends in and is not impactful. We feel like it could be reduced.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, thank you all for coming. I'm Shelley Sasaki, Steve's wife, and we've lived there in that house since 1998. And we have dealt with a lot of views that were blocked in those years' time. And in the one corridor that is left, we have view restoration, view preservation. We've had curtains blocking our whitewater view in our master bedroom. I know that's not the issue right now, but in the only corridor that's left, view restoration, view preservation, the only corridors that's left in my direct, straight eye level, because I'm a midget, sorry, and I shrank since high school, 3 inches, so I'm exactly 5 feet, exactly. I used to be 5 feet, half inches, but I'm not anymore. Okay, so it is smack at the level of my eye view, standing at the kitchen sink, sitting in the dining room, in the family room, in the living room. It is every area that I spend most of my time with. The other foliage, curtain of foliage, blocks the family room, blocks the living room, it darkens the family room, and blocks our whitewater view and our ocean view from our master bedroom, the 5 queen palms that were planted, the yucca trees, and the giant's birds of paradise. So only thing left, and then we built the addition thinking we'd have a view. And then the trees and the foliage, the 12 fruit trees that were planted and terraced during COVID have blocked that view that we put an addition over our house. So smack in the corridor, eye level, to me, the midget, are those 2 caps. I don't want to call them shrouds because that is a covering of our sons in heaven. And I don't want to refer, but they are house-shaped. Somebody called them birdhouses. I call them rat houses because all that on the hillside is all rat infested. Every night, 5 or 6 rats are crawling around our house. They got in our attic because it's never trimmed. Okay, that is not the issue, but it's one more thing, one more salt on the wound that we have dealt with since 1998. Our kids grew up there. Sorry.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I have seconds. Okay. So the house shape, they don't need to be that big. They are as wide as the chimney. They're double the chimney they double the size. They're as wide and it blocks the view, the whitewater view, the ocean and the sky and the sunset and the moonlight reflecting on the ocean. We're at the very top of the world.
Thank you very much. Any other speaker?
Can I respond to this?
You'll have your time. Seeing none, I return it to the applicant. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you all. I'm Cyrus Gidanian. I'm the homeowner. With all due respect, I disagree with what Mr. and Mrs. Sasaki said about the trees. First of all, there is a mandate by the City of Laguna Beach View Department about trimming our trees to a very strict specification. It's about 6-7 pages. And every year that mandate forces us, obligates us to trim our trees to that specification, and we do it. And every year we get a letter about being compliant from the city. And the last letter that I got, it was perhaps 2-3 months ago, that we are compliant. So we do all the trees according to that mandate by your department, your city, about being spark arresters and the chimney caps twice as much. That's not correct at all. This is not true. It's maybe a couple of inches taller, but it's not twice as much. All we did, we asked our roofer or our previous contractor to replace the spark arresters, and we decided to cover the ugly spark arrestor by chimney caps. I bought those chimney caps close to $6,000 made of copper. And our gutters are copper, our downspouts are copper, and we are covering this with also cover. Actually, I expected that Mr. and Mrs. Sasaki come with a bouquet of flower to our house and thanks us to cover those ugly spark arresters. And now they are complaining about this. As far as blocking their view, they have a huge patio that it has incredible view thanks to us because we cut our biggest eucalyptus tree, biggest eucalyptus tree in the neighborhood. We cut it off to open up their view. I expected a thank you for that as well, but never. So that was my response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Monica? Merman?
Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. Back to our discussion earlier, are your fireplaces currently wood burning?
No.
So they're fake woods? It's fake logs?
Right.
So it's just aesthetic then, the chimney tops?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, staff, and just to confirm, or maybe you don't know, if it's not a wood burning fireplace, do you need the spark arresters?
It's always per the manufacturer specification of the fireplace.
Okay. With that, any other questions? Seeing
guess
none. Close.
Sorry, Chair.
Louis, you have one? Go ahead.
I guess, I mean, there's a code height that there's a minimum height that the chimney vent's got to be above the roof. Do we know that code height or where is this in relative to the application?
Sarah, do you know the answer?
I'm not familiar with the code requirement.
You talking about the actual chimney? Just
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Bill.
like the height off of the roof, right? It's got to be like, I want to say.
yeah, so per code,
Wait,
basically.
let Bill talk first and then you can talk.
No, as I understand the building code requirement relative to the chimney height is it's 2 feet above the roof, 10 feet away.
Okay.
Okay, can I add something about
No.
this?
I want to keep it to the questions at this point. All right. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I close the public hearing. Who would like to begin? MJ? She's looking at Emir.
Chair, I want to look at this from a view equity standpoint and consider the extent of the view obstruction. I've deliberated back and forth on this one, but from a code standpoint, I think the view obstruction is minimal. I think that there are obviously neighborly concerns that are being vetted here in dialogue, and we never like to be a part of that as a board. Pertaining to the elements of this project, I think they meet the design review criteria. I think that there are the one element that's in consideration pertaining to the neighbors is view equity, and I don't think that there are disturbances on view equity that can meet a major obstruction, and I can approve this project tonight.
All right. Louis, you want to go next?
Yeah, so really for the project, there's two components. One is the siding, which, I think it enhances the characteristics of the home. The home's minimalistically visible from the street. The stone veneer, I think will enhance the overall look of the house. And so that function is design review compatible. I think for the chimney, I guess, I struggle because, when we're talking kind of views, whether it's significant or not, elements that are less I guess, or that are more aesthetic driven. Like I've historically given less preference to those and more preference to the view component. I do believe there's an existing chimney there and a chimney vent should be on the roof. My concern would be like I would want that to be as low as possible. And maybe they're not even on both sides. One might have room to be much lower than the other, but I think in order to make my condition of approval, I'd want to make sure that those stacks are as short as possible and don't come up into the horizon as high as maybe as proposed. But I'm open to my other board members on how they view it.
MJ? Oh, Jess? MJ, you're up.
Okay. I concur with Board Member Weil. I think that the stonework is fine, and we'll upgrade the home. I think that if the chimney shroud, cap, guard, whatever you want to call it, could be less cumbersome. Right now it pitches up. It's going to be quite large when it's enclosed. It extends to the full width of the chimney itself. I don't think it's required to make that a little more attractive so that the homeowner gets the attraction of even though you just see it for a minute, and makes it more cohesive and less industrial. But I think that right now the choice of what you've designed is too large, and I think that view is everything here. And even though this was existing chimneys, by adding the arrestor and now adding the shroud, it actually becomes another architectural element that becomes cumbersome to the view. And I think it's something that can be easily fixed and still do something nice for the house.
Jess?
I concur what my board members had to say. Not really so much, I guess, board member Coveney to some degree. I'm surprised you can't see it. It's on the roof. I'm surprised you wanted to invest in beautifying this, the two elements. I've been on the board. This is now 5.5 years, so I remembered the landscape. And you're right. The trees that were taken down improved the view. Like board members, Balta and Weil, I agree that it's the view equity, as far as that's concerned, there's no view obstruction. It's very minimal. The horizon view is intact. It's like a sore thumb. So yeah, the copper patina, it patinas so quickly. There's no glare on copper anyway. When I remodeled my house, I did full gutters and I got no complaints from the neighbors, just compliments. So you're beautifying two ugly elements, and I commend you for making that investment. I can approve this project.
Okay, the way I'm hearing it is we have 2 yes as is. Lewis is wanting it shorter, as short as possible, and MJ is too large. So let me give my view. First of all, the cladding for the house is fine. The Jerusalem stone, the applicant was kind enough to show me it, and it reminds me of Jerusalem. And I think it improves the house, has no impact, meets all the guidelines. With respect to the so-called chimney shroud. Now, under the guidelines, the view equity considers all the factors and balance. If it's an important element of the house and has minimal view, that means view equity has been achieved. If it has minimal impact on the design of the house, but major view, then view equity becomes triggered. It is always a balancing, and the balancing that I come to is that, and this is a close case, the shrouds are really big. First of all, I got to say this. This was non-compliant work. It was work that was not permitted. The way we are obligated to review this project as if you were applying without that work having done. So the fact that you paid for these shrouds is totally irrelevant to our decision. Our decision is for your application, as if there is nothing there and you're seeking approval, not to approve shrouds that you've already chosen to build. That was at your risk. So back to what I'm saying, the shrouds are large, they're oversized, and impactful. Would we have approved it had you brought it to us in the way they were, without it having been constructed? Or would we have asked something along the lines of what Mr. Weil asked and what Ms. Comey asked? I believe we would have. I don't think we would have approved a shroud that big. I certainly would not have. And the reason is that it has very little impact on the overall aesthetics of the applicant's home. It's a minor improvement. Is it have a major impact on the view of the Sasakis? It doesn't have, I wouldn't say a major view, but it has an impact. And the reason it has an impact is it's right at eye level, not far from ceremonial rooms. In other words, it's something that you see, and you see your eye kind of focuses on it. So it wouldn't be fair to say it has no impact. So given the minimal impact on the overall aesthetics of the house and the real impact on view and the, kind of the view appearance from ceremonial rooms on the Sasaki's house, I think the balance, while close, goes to the Sasakis. That being said, I will entertain and I think and I'll I'm going to return it to other board members to get their views after we've all heard each other's to see if they want to further comment. But to get my vote, it would have to be a much reduced shroud. It does expand the width of the spark arresters from the photos by double. So I would, I would want to consider either removing that and leave it as the spark arresters and maybe put in a nice one there if you think it's old and ugly, or a shroud that is much smaller and more modest that would be consistent with not impacting the Sasaki's views as much. So that's where I am. I can't approve the project tonight, but I'm open to a smaller, more modest shroud.
Basically a lower profile.
Pardon me?
Basically a lower profile. I'm just looking at your photo.
Yeah, you can see it here, a lower profile, lower and maybe not as wide. That would be attractive. I'm not saying they can't have a shroud. What I'm saying is the one that and I looked at them, they were big. And they're beautiful, don't get me wrong. They are gorgeous shrouds, but I just don't think they belong there, given the circumstances. So with
Chair, I've got a question pertaining to the spark arrestor. Is that height currently approved?
I think and we had asked the question of Sarah, and we can ask it again just to confirm that was not subject to the 2020 application. So we assume it was previously approved, but I don't know that. Sarah, have those spark arresters ever been approved?
Yeah, those spark arresters were approved, I think back in August of this year.
Of August of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So they're recent. Are they
Well,
new spark arresters?
They are not.
Admin approved?
They were. Sarah said that they were approved in when? August
Yes.
of this year.
By what body?
By planning? By
director.
zoning?
They were approved by planning and building.
So do we know if this was the existing chimney and the original existing height and the one that was approved by design review in 2020, all that we're clear on? Is that for sure?
I would think so. Sarah?
The chimney was not modified during the approval in 2020.
So what they had,
It was
It's
existing.
still there.
was existing, as was with a spark arrestor or no spark arrestor.
There was a spark arrestor, but it was different than what is up there today because that was just recently permitted.
So that was a replacement. Was it bigger or smaller, or do we know?
I don't know for certain, but it appears bigger.
So if
Can we do a smaller spark arrestor? I don't. It's not before us. The only thing before us is the shroud.
right.
The spark arrestor has been approved. It's not within our jurisdiction to do anything about that.
Chair, I've got a proposal that might work. If we were to remove the shroud from this approval, get approval for the siding so they can move forward with the project, and then they could present something else at a later date.
Well, it's up to the applicant as to whether they want us to approve we can't approve piecemeal. So the application is for both. But first of all, are we in agreement that we're not going to approve the shroud because it's too big? but we would approve the cladding. Is that where we are as a board?
I believe we do have the authority to approve one and not the other. Is that right, Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick, let me ask you that.
Correct, yeah.
Can we continue one and
No,
not
so-
approve the?
Correct. No, so I would advise against maintaining the same application, only approving a portion of
That's
it
what-
and then continue at the next one. But Madam Vice Chair is correct that you can approve only a component. Now, once again, it's probably ideal to ask the applicant in terms of you don't want to, make them kind of chase their tail. Yeah.
Before I ask the applicant, we can't approve half of an application and continue the other half. It would have to be a new application, which is what I thought. So I just want to see if we have a consensus before we ask the applicant whether they want us to approve the cladding and not the shroud and come back later on a new application with the shroud, or continue the whole thing to revise the shroud so we can approve the package altogether.
Yeah, Chair, I just also
Well, I
like
know,
to
but I
ask,
want to make sure that's where we are as a board.
and I'd also like to ask you, Chair, to ask the applicant if perhaps they've had an alternative already potentially thought through, because it's very possible. Often they do.
Well, yeah, we'll ask
So,
that.
but yes, I'm in agreement with your comments.
Okay, so, and Louis, are you in agreement with my comments?
Yeah, enough, yeah. Let's see what the applicant has to say.
Okay, so the
If we can
question for the applicant is, do you have a listen to my question, then I'll turn the floor over to you. Do you have a proposal now for a smaller shroud? That's number one. Number two is, we'll be happy to consider it. Let's start with that. Do you have a proposal for a smaller shroud at this time?
So Cyrus, my client, he had these shrouds made a couple years ago, and that's when he installed them. And that's when the whole thing came about and became a code enforcement. So then we had to remove them, and that's why we're going through design review so we can get them approved. In reference to the stone, I'm assuming you like.
No,
to get
you're not
the
listening to
stone?
my question. Let's focus on my question.
Okay, sorry.
My question was, do you have a proposal
No,
right now?
I do
for a
not have
smaller-
a proposal for that.
I didn't
For-
think so.
For the.
Okay, so the
smaller
question
version.
to you is, do you want us to approve the cladding and deny the shroud, and then you could come back, it's a denial without prejudice, you can come back and make another application for a smaller shroud? Or do you want to continue this and make a proposal for a smaller shroud at a second hearing where we can consider the full package, the full application that you've got now? That's your question.
What would you
Do
like?
you understand the question?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree to go with the shorter one. Basically, smaller means shorter in this case.
Right. So the option you have is to continue this hearing on this one application and present at the next hearing a smaller shroud that you want to get approved.
Okay, but
Is that what you want to do?
Mr. Gibbs, you have to tell us how small. We want to leave here with some number, how shorter, so we don't have to be redundant about doing things again. How shorter?
I think you're going to need to design that. Let me state my view, and then you can hear from other board members.
As minimally as you can
Yeah, I think
would be my suggestion.
that's exactly,
Yeah, go ahead.
that's exactly what I would say. As small as you can make it. And that's up to you. I'm not going to give you dimensions. I'm not going to give you height. The only direction I can give, and it sounds like Jess isn't there, is to make it as small as you can. Is that?
Okay,
Any other comments from board members about that?
yes. Okay, now, I'm assuming that the stone issue is gone, you approved it. Is this correct?
No, that's wrong. You're not listening. Either we approve that tonight, in which case we would deny your shroud and you could bring a new application.
Mr. Gibbs, I'm asking about the Jerusalem stone, not the shrouds.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. We can approve the Jerusalem stone right now
You do?
and deny you have one application. Maureen, maybe you can explain this to them. You have one application that has two parts. One is the approval of the cladding of the Jerusalem stone, and two is the shroud over the chimney. We can approve your application as to the Jerusalem. We can either approve the cladding of the Jerusalem stone and deny the shroud tonight. We can't approve one and continue the application for the chimney. So you have two choices. One is we approve the Jerusalem stone tonight and we deny the cladding part of your application.
Chair.
Or you can later on file a new application for the shroud, for the chimney. Or alternative two is we continue the whole application, which includes the Jerusalem stone and the shroud, to a new date. And then you could submit at the new date on the continued application,
Okay,
a new smaller shroud.
okay,
So you get the choice.
okay. The optimum situation for us is that you get the approval for the stone, Jerusalem stone, and keep the other issue open.
Right.
Yeah.
but So,
You will not be, you will get denied.
and Chair, that you may want to explain, if I may. There's going to be a brand new application, brand new application fees, brand new notice. And once again, I'm not trying to put my finger on the scale. If there's any potential appeals and or challenges, 2 bites at the apple. But once again, it's up to the discretion of.
Let me give you a hint, and then Maureen.
Chair,
talk to-
before you get into, can I butt in? Is there an alternate to this, considering it's a pretty minor project? Can we just make a condition of approval to make the chimney cap as small as possible so we don't have to go back there and spend
I would not support
resources?
it. I need to see it.
Can we ask Lewis about that, if that would be open to him?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Lewis?
Is that the applicant asking a question?
Lewis,
No,
Lewis proposed an alternative.
Emir has an alternative. I'm
If
against
we make
it,
a
but
condition of approval as the chimney shroud being as small as possible.
And staff will determine
well,
that.
Bill, I guess, Bill, based on the code, for the stacks that we're talking about, the 2 stacks, can they be lowered to meet code, or are they at the minimum height currently?
Yeah, Board Member Wild, this is Bill Rodriguez. I don't have those specific dimensions to make that code assessment right now, but what I could promise the commission if they, or the board, if they wanted to move in that direction, is that planning staff would work with the applicant as well as our building and safety staff to make sure that the height of the spark arresters and the chimneys are at the minimum required by code.
And not just the height, but the skinny wise.
I think we're getting bogged down in this.
Yeah.
Let me make a motion. I'm going to make a motion, and hopefully we'll see where it goes. I move that on item 5.4, 2755 Park Avenue, Design Review 25-1566, that we continue this matter with direction to the applicant to reduce the size of the shroud to the minimal possible, and for staff to work with the applicant on reducing the spark arrestor to minimum amount for the code, and the shroud to the minimum amount necessary, or minimum amount appropriate, and that we continue it to a new hearing when we can approve the result of those discussions and modifications. That's my motion. Unless, when would be the next date?
At this point, I would recommend maybe November, the special meeting on November 6th. We only have 5 items on that agenda tentatively.
And I move that it be moved to our special meeting on November 5th? 6th.
I'll second that.
Can you call the roll, please?
Board Member Balta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has been
Thank you
continued.
very
5
much.
to 0.
Hopefully we can approve the project on November 6th.
6th.
Okay. The next item is 5.5, which is 2526 Monaco Drive, Design Review 25-1479. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I analyzed the site from the actual address with Colin and Evelyn Best.
Chair, I spoke with the applicant, architect, and visited site.
Drove by the site and reviewed the architect's input.
And I visited the site. So.
Evaluating the
forgot about
site,
you.
spoke with Anders.
All right.
Call
So,
for an expedited on this one as well.
I'm fine with expedited on this. Any objection? It's a little bit more of a project, but I think it's pretty clear. So Kate, you're up.
Okay.
It doesn't involve a chimney.
The applicant's request is for additions to an existing single-family residence, a demolition and replacement of the existing swimming pool and spa, and exterior material changes in the R1 zone. And tonight, staff is recommending that the board adopt Resolution 25-1479 and the associated categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA. I'm available for any questions.
Great expedited summary. Any questions from board? None? Anders, open public hearing. Anders, you have 5.
Thank you very much, Chair, and welcome, or not welcome, good evening, board members. You should be saying welcome to me. I'm Anders Lassiter, architect for the project. Thank you for that great introduction, Kate, and thank you for taking over the project from Martina. You did a great job bringing us to this stage. It's a pretty straightforward project, realigning the shape of the swimming pool. There's a small powder room and dining room addition into the courtyard and some material changes to the exterior to create more of a Santa Barbara style Spanish outward appearance. And that's the project. The Irvine Cove Association reviewed it and approved it unanimously without comment. So I hope you guys can do the same. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any members from the public wish to speak on this project? Seeing none, I return it to the applicant. You have 3 minutes.
No comments.
Any questions of the applicant? Louis?
No, I'm good.
All right, close the public hearing. MJ, you haven't started.
I'll start. I think this meets all design review criteria. You're just kind of upgrading everything, and the little addition you're adding is within the existing footprint, doesn't create any view equity. It's all in keeping with the beauty of Irvine Cove and having the support of their association. I can easily get behind this project.
Ditto.
Emir?
I agree with my fellow board members. I can approve this project tonight.
Louis?
Yeah, the project's design review compatible, and I support staff's findings and can support the project this evening.
And so can I. I think all the findings are appropriate. Read the staff report. It was excellent. So with that, motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 25-1479, approving design review 25-1479 for the property located at 2526 Monaco Drive and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15301.
I'll second that.
Call the roll.
Board Member Belta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed 5-0.
Thank you, board.
All right. The next project is 5.6, which is 445 Hillage Drive. Design review 25-1267, coastal development permit 25-1268. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I had a site visit, and previously I met with the neighbors, but not on this
And I
one.
also did a site visit and had met with both neighbors previously.
I did a site visit and met with the project architects.
Louis?
Site visit and spoke with the architects on the phone.
And I met the applicant team and the owner at the site. Where's the applicant? Yeah, come up to the table, please. Nancy, you're up.
Good evening, board. The project in front of you is a new home at 445 Hillage Drive, and this is a second hearing on the matter. There was a home approved by this board about 2 years ago, and the applicant ran into some issues with the costs that were incurred, so they redesigned the project. At the last hearing, essentially, there were some concerns with views with some of the roof heights and privacy relating to trees that the board had wanted planted that required additional alternative material and methods be provided, the location of the pool, and the a wall that they wanted. So if you go to the next slide, please. So just to organize what's going on, there is an ADU that requires a CDP that's identified with an arrow written in red. There is a pool and spa that's been moved over 3 feet, and there is a 3-car garage that requires the design review for the additional covered parking to just reiterate what design review is required. It's for the new home, the additional lot coverage, the third covered parking space, grading, pool, spa, and landscaping. Next slide, please. So in terms of privacy, the board wanted the vegetation on both property lines consistent with their prior approval. And for the neighbor at 445 Hillage, they wanted the pool relocated away from the north side property line. For 435 Hillage, they wanted the large great room windows to be reduced in size and a 6-foot block wall be added along that south side property line. And for the view, perceived view impacts, the roof ridges, they wanted lowered, noting that this change would also reduce the apparent size and scale of the structure. Next slide, please. And the applicant's response, they have the rows of trees added back in on the property lines. There is an AM&M that will be required and reviewed during building plan check. The AM&M concepts for the AM&M were reviewed with the building official, and the applicant and the building official are confident that something can be approved there that allows these trees that would be non-conforming. For 455 Hillage, the pool was moved 3 feet closer to the home. And for 435 Hillage, the great room windows were reconfigured and reduced. And for the view, the roof ridge was lowered 22 inches by reducing plate heights to 9 feet and modifying the pitch to a 6 and 12. And then the next 2 slides are just the renderings. And we can go back to those if need be. The next slide is the other rendering. And then staff's recommendation is to conduct a public hearing and by motion, adopt the resolution approving design review in the CDP for the property and finding said actions exempt from CEQA per 15303 section. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff? Seeing none. Louis? Not hearing any.
Yeah, no questions, sorry.
No problem. I open a public hearing. Applicant, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. There we go.
There you go.
So Nancy, as usual, has done a great job. I'm Rob with Studio 6 Architects representing the applicant. There's really nothing for me to add unless you have questions for me. Again, she's done a great job. We've spent a lot of time getting to where we are today. So we're happy to answer any questions and hopefully move forward with the project.
Thank you very much. I open it to members of the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the podium. Not seeing anyone. I return it to the applicant. You have 3 more minutes if you want it.
We're good. Thank you.
All right. Any questions of the applicant or staff?
This might be a question for staff, but feel free to answer this if you like. Because there's going to be a condition of approval for the tree heights. What range should those tree heights be when we make the condition of approval?
It would have to be something that you have seen because staff doesn't go out to the site to see what height would be appropriate for privacy.
Right.
Is that in the plans? Is it in your landscape plans what the tree heights to be?
The plans call them out between 12 and 18 feet, not to exceed the ridge height of the house.
Okay, so it's in the plans.
Right.
Okay, nice. Are you planting 48-inch boxes?
24-inch, but we're going to, like we said before, we're going to plant them at the very beginning of construction. So they'll be able to grow for a couple years, year and a half while the house is under construction.
Okay. That works.
All right. And you've gone over that with the neighbors. They're fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Would you be open to 48 inches or 32-inch box? Because 24 is really small. It's an infant.
They start out at.
Not a boxwood inside.
Yeah, 24-inch boxes start out about 9 to 10 feet tall.
24-inch boxes do?
Yeah, in podocarpus. So.
I thought that was 32-inch boxes, but I'm not an arborist, so.
24s, we have very limited room on both sides. And we get them down at Moon Valley Nursery, and they're oversized. They're probably the size of a 36 or 48-inch box, but they're in 24.
But they do start at 9 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they'll grow 2 feet a year easily. So you put on another 4 feet
Yeah, that's okay.
during the project.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Close the public hearing, and let me start on this one just because I love it when the neighbors work it out with the applicant. This project it's always been a beautiful project. We had some issues. You've solved them, and my hat's off to you and to the neighbors. I wish this happened more. I think it meets all the guidelines. I'll let my other board members go into more detail, but I did want to note that. I believe it covers all the guidelines. So with that, I turn it over to Jess.
Yeah, and I agree as well. This is an approvable project tonight. Additional lot coverage is just a recommendation. I feel like the size of your lot, the position of the ADU and the pool and the house, the structure itself is fine. My big concern was the Evans property, and you mitigated that with the hedges, so I can approve this project.
Jess?
MJ. Yeah, thank you for.
Oh, MJ, I
thank
thought I was
We're both-
thinking you
yeah,
were.
both
Jess.
beautiful. And I see your neighbors are here, which is always nice to see that. And I really appreciate you reaching out and also responding to the board so graciously. I feel like you have a beautiful home. I know that you probably felt like you gave some stuff up, but I think it's really gonna just be lovely. The materials and the way it's aligned on the property, it's perfectly neighbor compatible. Design integrity's there. I wish we saw more homes like this integrated into the communities like this, and I can definitely support the project.
Emer?
Very thoughtfully designed estate, beautiful home. Looking forward to you guys building this one out, and from a design compatibility, I think it meets all the guidelines, and we can definitely approve this tonight.
Louis?
Yeah, I'm supportive of the project this evening and concur with my board members. Appreciate the applicant for making their modifications to the original approval and keeping the mitigation elements in line as discussed at the prior hearing. I feel the applicant team has done everything that we asked them to do, and I can support staff's findings in the staff report and support the project this evening.
With that, motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 25-1267, approving design review 25-1267 and coastal development permit 25-1268 to demolish an existing structure and construct a new single-family dwelling with an attached 3-car garage, excess building site coverage, a third parking space, grading, pool, spa, landscaping, and detached accessory dwelling unit for the property located at 445 Hill Edge Drive, and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15303.
And I'll second.
Call the roll, Paula.
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed 5-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the next item. Please come to the front table, applicant. It's 5.7. It's 3 Camel Point Drive, design review 25-1650, coastal development permit 25-1651. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I have to, I'm within 300 feet of the property.
Oh, she's got to recuse herself. She
I have
lives
to
within the,
recuse myself because I'm within 300 feet
Right,
of
that's
the
it.
property.
That's
It's 500 feet.
500
but
feet.
that-
and
Who's
that's-
counting?
And that's
it?
your
I'm
financial
within
interest of your
500.
personal residence. Thank you very much, Madam Board Member.
All right, Jess, your ex parte.
I had the absolute pleasure of doing a site visit and taking my time.
Chair, I visited site, met with, and spoke with Horst.
Louis?
Visited the site.
And then I visited the site with Horse. With that, can we, Nancy, you're up again. So please give us your summary.
Sure. So this is modifications to property at 3 Camel Point Drive. Next slide, please. The project site is shown on the left. It is an oceanfront property, and it abuts the Aliso Beach Park down at the sand. These photos were all in the staff report, but just to let you know, there's the middle picture on the bottom is what it looks like now from the street. And the middle picture above that is just an aerial. I thought it was the best way to see the context of the property. And then the last photo shows the improvements on the bluff. And I'll move on to the next slide for the entitlements. So design review and a coastal development permit is required for modifications to a prior approval, including additions. I have a separate slide to represent the additions, but this slide shows where the pool, where the spa and water feature are proposed in the blue area. The trellises are the kind of yellow area. The deck additions are the purple areas. And then in this slide, you can see I put some dots where the bluff top is, so you can see where the top of bluff currently exists. The next slide, please. This slide I stole from the applicant. Jaime put this together and I said, I need that one because it clearly shows where the additions are. The lower floor, which is on the left, shows the red is the addition and the green is the removal. So there's no real net increase on that bottom level. And then the plan on the right shows additions, which are all towards the street. Next slide, please. There is some unpermitted work in the bluff that's shown on the plan. This plan was attached to the staff report, and these photos show some walls that were made out of concrete along the stairs. Those stairs were permitted years ago before the Coastal Act. And they also permitted a railing, and all that is itemized in the staff report. But the concrete walls that you can see are pretty fresh in the photos. Those will all need to be removed. Next slide shows renderings, the front and the rear. To give some context, it is a total exterior remodel. And then the last slide is the staff recommendation, conduct the hearing, and adopt the resolution to approve design review and a coastal development permit with exempt from CEQA per two different sections, 15303 and 15301. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Nancy, I have a question. I'm concerned about removing those retaining walls and what's going to happen to that slope. That slope is not stable. In fact, I think the retaining walls were put up there because there was a slide. You can see the remnants of the slide. Does this have to be approved? Does the remediation plan have to be approved by coastal? Or maybe Patrick, you
Well,
know?
the coastal development permit is appealable to coastal, but we were going to accept a restoration plan during building plan check. And if there is something that has to be done that requires any improvements that are visual or structural, they'd have to come back. But at this point, it's to take them out and put the site back the way it was before they put them in.
Do you have any photos of what it looked like? Because I don't know if it can be restored to the prior condition because of the slide.
Well,
Yeah.
there
would
are
be- But-
photos that I could probably find while going on.
All right, why don't we go with that? And Horace, if you could at some point address that, because I am concerned about that. With that, I open the public. Any other questions, first of all?
Yeah, I do. A follow-up question, but didn't you say that that's determined in the next phase?
Well, they need building plan check
Right.
for the restoration plan.
Right.
And if it's simply restoring and no more structures, then they've met the requirement to remove them.
Right. Okay. But we can't decide that now. That's the next phase.
Well, they have to take them out. And if for some reason there was something more involved than just removing them and restoring the grade or cutting back, then they would have to come back.
Yeah, I don't, it's not with, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I want to get this up front with Bill and Patrick and you, Nancy. It's not that we have any authority to decide how that restoration plans to be. We're just talking about removing unpermitted
Right.
work.
That's
Is that right?
That's correct.
That is correct, Chair.
Okay. Any other question? Lewis? I know, I look up to the sky.
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry.
All right. With that, I open the public hearing, and Horace, you have 5.
Good evening, Design Review Board members, city staff. I'm Horst Knoppenberger, the project architect. I'm here with Dmitry Altikov, who is the builder. And Dmitry has been involved with the project well before we were involved. And he could probably speak to the condition of the stairs, prior to the retaining walls, going in. I want to thank Nancy. Excellent to work with. I think Nancy was our fourth planner, and there was a lot of moving parts to this project. Nancy was just able to, consolidate everything and just work, really well with us and, fair with us. And we really do appreciate it. I mean, we do have a presentation, but it's essentially the images that Nancy just shared with you. So maybe in the interest of moving things along, we don't really need to go back through them. We've had a couple neighborhood meetings. We've kind of been going through this process for about a year and a half. There were some other architects, very talented architects from Russia who were originally involved, and then we took it over. They were having some challenges. And Dmitry was involved with the previous architects as well, if you have any questions for him. It's a beautiful property. We're just, our aspiration is to take this existing structure that was designed by Morris Skandarian, I think 30 years ago or so, and just kind of, sort of take it to the next, level, really increase the integration of an interior space with exterior space, new materials going in, to the project, and then some just, design touches, really. So it's a pretty simple project. Dmitry, you want to say anything?
I think you said it well.
Okay, if you have any questions for Dmitry, he's...
Okay, I probably will. Excuse me, I probably will. With that said, any member of the general public wish to speak? On this item, not on the, you want to speak on Camel Point? Okay, come on up. It's your turn. 3 minutes each. And state your name before you begin.
Hello, I'm Diane Armitage. I'm going to read this because I want to stay under my 3 minutes, if you don't mind. The staff report talks about the owner's environmental stewardship, but when you look at the bluff itself, what you see is the owner's destructive precedent. I live on West Street Beach. I've lived there for 23 years, and I walk to Treasure Island at least weekly. I was among those who reported the illegal bluff build-out in April 2022. In fact, I just discovered this afternoon that I still have 3 photos and a video from April 1st, 2022, aggressive development that they were doing on the bluff. The city red tagged the property that same week, and in July 2022, 3 months later, the applicant's own engineer, Stony Miller Consultants, admitted in writing that a new masonry retaining wall has been constructed on the bluff slope, and they noted, "It is our understanding the wall will be removed." That letter is 3 years and 2 months in the past. Clearly, not only was a wall not removed, but ongoing construction continued on the bluff unchecked. Now, staff has attached an unpermitted bluff work demolition plan, but it shows only 2 small retaining walls and a stair segment to be removed. If you look at these photos that I've submitted, this is not 2 walls and a stair. This is an entire system of block walls, poured stairs, steel railings drilled into the bluff. And within 2 years, it's already failing. Stairs are collapsing, rebar is exposed, the bluff is destabilized. Notice the signage on the gate. That's not stewardship, that's liability protection. The owners know they've created an extreme hazard, so they've posted danger, construction area, keep out signs to shield themselves legally. But the danger isn't just to trespassers, it's to the bluff itself, to the stability of the coastline, and to this neighborhood. But this didn't start with the bluff. Almost to this date, in 2021, 4 years ago, they were issued a permit to simply remodel the interior, kitchen and bathrooms only, without altering the current layout. Instead, they tore the majority of the house down to the frame. This is where the pattern began. Misrepresent the scope, push far past the limits, and hope no one notices. This is not an honest mistake. It is a calculated pattern, ignoring permits, ignoring city orders, ignoring the Coastal Commission, and then backfilling the record with consultants who didn't properly verify the existing damage then, and no one ever verified that they followed through with their promise to remove a retaining wall because the owners ignored that demand completely. We're not looking at environmental stewardship. We're looking at careless destruction, liability, and precedent. Precedent that's already been proven again and again over 4.5 years. If the city rewards this behavior with still more permits, it sends the message that in Laguna Beach, it pays to break the rules. Please do not let a permit reward their pattern. Deny this application until the bluff is fully restored, not just on paper, but in reality, and until the applicant demonstrates compliance over time.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hello, Ruben Flores. Hey, Ors. Yeah, I'm concerned mainly about the bluff in the back. That is truly something that's egregious. I've been helping to develop the property next door for 35 years, and I've personally witnessed the implementation of the steps that are going up that were not historic and then are not there before. When we developed the property next door, we had to maintain the historic stepway, and we wanted to put in a new stairway, but we were unable to do that. And so this one came in, and then it's been added to with walls and railings and more. One of the things that's a little bit frustrating about the landscape plan is that they don't show where the podocarpus are going. They show the podocarpus, I think, as a 5-foot or a 7-foot plant, when really that plant gets 50 feet tall. And I'm not really sure exactly where they are all going on the plan. So that is something that should be checked before any acceptance to this plan goes forward. In those narrow areas between the two houses, a tree of that size would be a negative aspect for the neighbor. Not to mention, they don't really grow well there because they'll burn. So as much as there might have been research regarding the tree, it won't look good. And it looks like they're bringing in 36-inch boxes, quite a few of them. But they don't say, again, truthfully, what the height is. Also, too, in the elevation of the front, they don't show the tea plant that they're proposing to come in at a 24-inch box, and yet it's not on the elevation. So that could be a mistake, so that needs to be clarified as well. It is a property, and from the beginning when we first built the house, I thought it was underused, so I'm looking forward to that, some sort of a better usage of that property, because it's an excellent piece, but first we need to make it correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Any other speakers? Seeing none, I return it to you for 3 minutes.
Yeah, we were, as we, leaned into this project and took this project over for out-of-town architects, we were very proactive in getting together with the neighbors. Unfortunately, the two people who just spoke were not, we've had no interaction with them whatsoever. They both know me. I always make myself open to people to discuss the project. I take exception to a lot of what they said. There was a lot of misrepresentation. From the very first moment that we started this project, we worked directly with Amber Dobson. Amber, we knew that the improvements in the bluff top were an issue. Dimitri immediately put together a bluff restoration plan. We have every intention of, moving forward with that plan and removing those retaining walls that are in the bluff top. The woman who just spoke here a second ago said that we're not embracing the process. We're here because we do embrace this process. We went through a 1.5 years of zoning, plan check and 4 planners to get to this point. We're doing everything we can to, work with the city, work with the neighbors, and make this a good project. We feel it's a good project. We feel like we went through all the necessary steps that were required of us. I wish I could have had a conversation with the two people who just spoke, because they're both very well misinformed about, our methodology and how we approach this development of the site.
Address the podocarpus. Are they located?
So we did the landscape plan ourselves. I love, Tom, me, I love doing landscape plans. We typically use podocarpus as a privacy screen. I mean, if there's an issue with it, we can come up with something else. But that was our intention.
Are they located on your landscape plan?
Yeah, they are. I can find those. for
Yeah,
you.
because I don't see it. I'm on your attachment 10.
It's
It's important because they do get big or can get big. I don't see it either.
No, it's interesting. I am not seeing the podocarpus. It's been a little while since I looked at this. I do see podocarpus in the upper right-hand corner in that legend. Yeah, typically we would be proposing podocarpus like along the side property lines for privacy. And those are, 24-inch box podocarpus. Yeah, I can see it right here, but I'm not seeing it in the legend and in the images here.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I have a few questions, but I'll leave it to other board members to ask first, since I've been butting in, going first every time.
I have no questions.
Emir? Lewis?
I'm good.
All right, my question is, and it may not be within our jurisdiction, but I'm not 100% sure. So I want to know how you're going to remove those walls and maintain the stability of the slope. Do you have an answer
I
to
can
that?
address that. So we have another, thank you for the question.
And I've read the restoration plan. It
Right.
doesn't say how.
Well, so the restoration plan is really just the first step. Like, for example, we have an oceanfront project. I'll try to be quick, Tom, and I really do appreciate the question.
Yeah.
We have an oceanfront project under construction on Pearl Street, and something very similar came up. There were some bluff top improvements that we had to remove. When we removed, or the contractor did, they removed a retaining wall. There was an issue with, some bluff failure, some movement. We had to go back through the city and we had to remedy that with some grading. I mean, technically not technically, but we're not permitted to do any retaining walls or any what the Coastal Commission calls shoreline protection devices within the bluff top setback. So when we removed the unpermitted retaining wall, there was some failure and we had to do some grading in that area. And we were also approved in building to add some crib walls, which don't require foundation systems. They are, gravity walls. They have, so there was, some things had to happen. Dimitri could maybe speak to the condition. Ruben was misinformed. There's no question, and Nancy can confirm this. There's no questions with the stairs, the risers themselves. It's just the vertical retaining walls that were added, adjacent on both sides.
The reason I ask, because they're big retaining walls. These are not 2-foot retaining walls. I mean, they're
Yeah.
big. And when we were out there, I said, you remove the wall, the slope. So are you going to put the dirt on the other side of the stairs? I mean, how's that going to
Yeah, well,
work?
so I mean, the other way of looking,
Flatten it out so the stairs remain, but there's like just a crib wall.
yeah, I mean, the other way of looking at it, is before those walls were constructed, there was stability. I mean, there may have been some failure, and maybe that's why the walls were constructed.
I'm convinced that's why.
But once we remove those walls, if there's additional failure, we'll go right to the building department. I mean, the owners want to use those historic stairs at some point, so they're going to want to make sure that it's safe.
Okay.
So it's all part of a process.
Because I think it's going to be a bigger job, but I don't think we have the jurisdiction. But I think I wanted to know, and I wanted the public to know. The second issue is more apropos, which is, and this is a question more for you, Nancy. A member of the public raised the issue of whether there was other unpermitted work that is not being required to be removed. And I think she focused on the stairs, but it might have been more than just the stairs. So I just want to know, are the stairs permitted, and is there any other non-permitted work there that's not the subject of the restoration application?
At this point, there were permits pool that weren't mentioned by the community member, but they do have a permit for replacement of doors and windows. So that's why the exterior was,
No, I'm talking about the stairs.
oh, the stairs are permitted. That's itemized in my staff report based on all the permits that were granted.
So the stairs down to the beach were permitted.
Based on what the permits say, yes. I mean, I didn't go and look at coastal
No,
images.
that's fine. And they look older. The walls obviously are new. They look older. So
Correct.
it's the staff's view that all of the unpermitted work that was done is the subject of the removal, the application of the restoration application before us.
That's correct. There's an updated restoration plan or demo plan that's an attachment to the staff report that's different than the plan set. So I think it's attachment.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay.
It's in there for the public.
Mhm.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Any other questions? Not hearing any. Public hearing is closed. Deliberations, who would like to begin?
I'll give it a shot. I appreciate city staff's effort to take this one through. Whenever there's unpermitted work, it puts undue process, and it sounds like Horst got involved quite a bit later. We appreciate you taking it home to a DRB hearing. Pertaining to the removal of unpermitted work, I think the staff report does a great job of identifying the limits of the work that needs to be removed. If there's additional elements, we leave it up to the applicant and design team to make sure those things are vetted and that bluff is restored to the previous condition prior to unpermitted work. Pertaining to the project, I think the design elements have been met, and I can approve this project tonight.
Jess?
Yeah, my iPad is rebooting.
Do you want me to?
No,
First to go next?
no, this is pretty easy. This is an approvable, modest, what'd you say, the modification. It's a modest modification. I loved the turf block. It was a nice touch and nice entry to the property. I concur with everything that Board Member Bauta said, and I can approve this project.
Louis?
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues in the staff report findings, and I can support the project.
Thank you. Yeah, let me just first, relating to some of the public comment. What happens historically is important, but generally not to us. What we look at is the application. What does the application do? What is it requesting? And in the case of non-permitted work, we assume that it had not done, and we decide based upon it being a new application. We know Horst. I think he's been a straight shooter with this board, in my experience. I'm glad he's got this project because I think the project's going to be done right. So the notion of what's happened in the history, I'm not disputing it. If it's true, it's not right, but that's not what we do. When we get unpermitted work, we look at it as if it wasn't done, and we look at the application as if it's a fresh application, and you're getting 5 board members, or in this case 4, who are objective, who've been doing this a long time, who know what they're doing, to review that. Okay, so with that said, I think it's a beautiful project. It's a classic Horst project. Someday I wish he wouldn't do a modern project. I'll be bowled over, but it's another modern, beautiful project. This is one of the most gorgeous pieces of property on the beach. And I think will be a big improvement over what's there in a real prominent place on Camel Point that is next to Aliso and all this. So I totally support this project. I'm glad the slope is being restored. I think that whole area needs to be, the one big problem with that project is the walkway down to the beach. I have confidence in staff and in Horst in doing this right if it can be done. I'm concerned. And so I'm just going to tell you, that slope looks really unstable to me. It may have needed those retaining walls to keep those stairs, but hopefully not. Hopefully you can work your magic. With that, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 25-1650 approving Design Review 25-1650 and Coastal Development Permit 25-1651 for the property located at 3 Camel Point Drive and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines, Section 15301.
Yeah, I'll second. Call the roll.
Board Member Belta,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed 4-0.
Congratulations. Good luck on building this thing. All right. Why don't we do one more and then we'll take a break? And we have two more. We have Morningside and then Valito. Good. We're going to plow ahead and do Morningside, and then we'll take a short break before the Valito project. All right, this is 5.8. Could the applicant come up? 1425 Morningside Drive, Design Review 25-1554, Coastal Development Permit 25-1555, Revocable Encroachment Permit 25-1626. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I visited the site, spoke with Denise and then the neighbor Brian Gainison.
I visited a site and met with Denise on site.
I visited the site, met with Denise, and met with the neighbor, Brian.
I visited the site with Denise and met with the neighbor Brian as well.
And as did I.
I met with the neighbor as well. Sorry, I missed that.
Okay. I met with Brian Glannison and with Denise. All right. Staff, Nancy, this is becoming a pattern.
Just
We're going to need a change at some point. Anyway, go for it.
Thank you. The project numbers, case numbers have already been read, so you can go to the next slide, please. So the project site is the first image, and the green hatching is the open space overlay that traverses the property, more than half of it. And then the photo on the right tries to depict the site. It's one of two vacant lots on Morningside Drive. Next slide, please. So this is the site plan and the entitlements. There's an REP at the front, which is just a stone walkway pointed out in light purple there. There's an upper level deck and a lower level deck that are in yellow. And it wraps around the property, wraps around to the downhill side, and then the pool is highlighted. It is non-exempt development in the coastal zone, so a coastal development permit is required. Next slide, please. These are the renderings that we could come back to if the board needs it as they're deliberating on the project, but these are in the plan set and may be helpful for deliberations in the future. The next slide shows the colors and materials. I've selected 3 of the elevations. It's a light stucco stone enhancements at the base and a tile roof. The next slide has the elevation that faces the neighbor that has concerns. I had that separate in case you wanted to look at that separately. And the neighbor's concerns are with design articulation, neighborhood compatibility, privacy, the pool and spa, and view equity. And the final slide has staff's recommendation to have a public hearing and by motion adopt the resolution approving design review, coastal development permit, and revocable encroachment permit, and the CEQA exemption. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any questions of staff? Not seeing any. I open the public hearing. Applicant, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Gibbs and board members. My name is Denise Sagarakis. I am the project architect for the new construction here at
Is it?
Morningside. Do I need
there
to
we go.
closer?
Yeah, just you can lower the.
Thank you. Okay. I'm here with Frank and Cassie Facero, the owners of the property. They're a young family with decades-long ties to the neighborhood. Frank's father lives down the street, just a couple houses down. And they just welcomed their first child this week, which is so exciting. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
A couple days old. They're looking forward to raising their family in their new forever home. Next slide, please. This will be the first new construction on Morningside in over 20 years. And the proposed 2-story, The proposed 2-story, 4-bedroom, 5.5 bath, 3-car tandem is 3,861 square feet of living space nestled into the lot of 15,064 square feet, which overlooks the open space overlay on the canyon edge. The next slide, please. The design results in a 26% livable to lot ratio, which is right in line with the neighborhood averages and pattern of development, which you can see anything in green is less than 30, and we are at 26. The average for the entire street of Morningside, that block, is 26 as well. When we factor in covered parking, we're at 31, and the average for the street is 32. So we're still underneath the average development for the neighborhood. Additionally, the home sits off of Morningside at 1 story from the front and is below the curb line. It's under the maximum 15-foot setback of building height limit, as well as, next slide, please. You can also see that while we're not subject to a ridgeline string line, we are below the adjacent string line for the properties on either side with development. In addition to that, we've also taken the curb line and offset that to the edge of development of the neighboring lots. So we could see that we are in line with the development for our livable space on Morningside. Next slide. This is another example of the obviously we would not be building all the way down the hillside, but it is showing the maximum building setbacks. So you can see at the front, we're grading down from the curb, and this lot specifically has a hump right after the curb line. So we grade down. The garage on the left of the front rendering is almost on grade with the curb. The next slide, please. One of the features of this project is a pool on the canyon side. And so we're highlighting here that there are approximately 38 pools on either side of the canyon at this time. And while there isn't currently a pool on that section of Morningside, we would be the first. There's, in a decades-long dry spell of new construction, it's not a surprise that we would be the first. But also, this illustrates with the blue dots with the red circles of homes that have a pool on a downward sloping lot. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we are showing Laguna Beach's Spanish and Spanish Revival. We're touching on those features with, hand troweled stucco, tile, stone, and arched openings, covered terraces. Let me just jump to the next slide so we can talk about engagement very quickly. So am I done?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Okay,
If I've
there we
been
go.
kind of looking at your slides, you'll have 3 minutes when we come back.
Yes.
All right, any members of the public wish to speak?
My name's Sally McGill. I live at 1405 Morningside. Frank's dad lives right to my right side, and they would be 2 doors down, and I am here in support of this project. And I think it's a lovely look. It's not contemporary. And I think it would be a wonderful thing. Helmet has been to my right for 40 years, a lovely neighbor. And I know this lovely family would be as well. I can't wait to see little babies running up and down the street. It would be wonderful. So I hope it passes.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hello, I'm Brian Jennison. I'm the neighbor that's most dramatically affected by this new project. I want Frank and Cassie to have their house. I just don't want it to take 80% of my view. So as I said in my documents that I submitted to you, I think the house is almost twice as large as every other house in the area, almost 4,000 square feet. Most of the other houses are in the $2,500 or 2,500 square foot range. I think it's too big for what we have in the neighborhood. The other issue is that, and the most dramatic issue for me is that it takes 80% of my ocean view and 100% of my Catalina view from my space where I spend 90% of my time, which is my kitchen and family room area, and also my upstairs bedroom. You saw in the renderings, you saw that big wall coming down the side of the canyon. I'm going to be looking at that. So there has to be a way in which I'm tried to propose in my letter to the board. There has to be a way to maybe reduce the required setback back to the curb. Taking 10 feet off of that property would dramatically increase my view back to maybe 80% of what I had before. I'm happy to lose 20%, but I'm not happy to lose 80% of my view. So I want them to have the house. I've tried to be a good neighbor. I tried to put these points across to them early on when they came to visit my home, and I was trying to also say that to you, board members, when you came, is I'm not opposed to the house in principle. I want them to have their house. I want them to raise their children there just like I raised mine, but I don't want to have to lose 80% of my view in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, I'm returning it to the, oh, do you wish to speak? Yes. Go ahead, state your name.
Good evening. My name is Helmut Reis. This is my son, my youngest one. I have 5 of those. So this is my youngest one, and I just congratulate him. He had a little baby boy that's 2 days old. I live 2 doors away from the building project, and I would highly welcome my son to live 2 doors away from me. And he's been a good boy. He's never had any problem. And we like to build and make the neighborhoods happy and make himself happy. And we want to go along with the laws, what's allowed to build. We don't want to ask for anything that's impossible, but I like to have, like anybody else, get what is possible. So therefore, I thank you for your consideration. And thank you very much.
Thank you, and you're a lucky man. If I could only live 2 houses away from my grandkids.
I definitely look
If
forward to that.
only, I'm envious. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of the public? Seeing none, applicant, you have 3 minutes.
I'm going to continue on with the engagement to piggyback off of Brian's comments. So we did stake this project early on in this year. We had been working on the project and designs and with staff, which we went through multiple planners, and we're so grateful for Nancy taking on the project. So we did stake in early January, and over the last 8 months, we've met with neighbors personally, with phone calls, emails, as well as we sent out a series of postcards and with QR codes to the full set of plans, renderings, and a response form, as well as a meeting request. Frank and Cassie also went door to door to the most impacted neighbors to make sure that they were heard, and the designs that we're presenting today reflect that dialogue that we had. The neighbor who is most impacted has side yard views over 2 empty lots, and balancing their view equity with our developmental rights. The design provides, the designs provided, their living room views remain unobstructed, and their side yard views from their main bedroom and kitchen are partially obstructed but not eliminated. So some of the accommodations that we made during our dialogue was after we first viewed the property from their perspective, we pulled our bedroom deck back 30 inches. And then after further dialogue, we pulled the main bedroom back another 18 inches. We also, to provide more privacy between the lots, we removed the windows on the first floor bedroom and reduced the window sizes in the main bedroom. And unfortunately, we weren't able to continue dialogue and come to an agreement.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Nancy, why was educate me on why they weren't granted the 10-foot setback, why they had to abide by the 20-foot setback?
The setback for this property is 20 feet. So when you are eligible for a reduced setback for a topological condition, it's 5 for a garage and 10 for the house. But that is only if 10 feet back, the 40 feet back, you are up or down 10 feet above the curb, and they don't meet that requirement. So it doesn't sink down 10 feet, 40 feet out.
Is that something they could get a variance on?
It's something you can deliberate or
Okay, so
consider
the answer
tonight
is-
for a future application.
Yeah, there are other houses that are in line with the
10 foot?
That 10 foot.
I walked the street, almost all of them was the way I saw it. I mean, I looked for, there's probably a couple, but anyway, we're getting kind of into deliberations. Let's, go ahead, any other questions? Louis, do you have any questions?
No, you pretty much, you're covering the one that I was going to ask.
What did you say? Oh, okay. Well, I can read your mind, so.
You're sorry, that did not come through very clear. You've asked the question that I was going to pose.
Okay, very good. So with that, I'll close the public hearing, and since we got Louis, we woke him up here, you get to go first. Go ahead, Louis.
All in all, it's a good project. I think it meets the design review criteria. I think it's well outlined by staff. I think there is a component that, if the applicant's willing to kind of open up the one side or the corner that is kind of the bedroom and move that forward, I could leave it to the owner if that's something they desired, but I don't think it's within the boards to force someone to a variance requirement to meet that objective. I don't think the house, as explained by the architect and in my visual inspections, the house does follow a rough string line from the curbs and the shape of the street and the adjoining neighborhood development. So I'm good with it, but I would like to see maybe some opening of that corner to keep that canyon view a little more preserved for the neighbor. But as far as view equity, it's a really close one. So I'm open to the deliberation of my fellow board members.
Hey, MJ, you up?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the process of the variance world, but it would have been nice to have had them had the opportunity for that just to see, but I don't know how that works in your world of planning so dramatically that they were discouraged. Looking at what I have before me now, I think it's a lovely design home. I think it's designed perfectly into the environment as it should be, which often on this street and we're seeing regularly is people not building and conforming to the topography as you guys have here. And I appreciate that. I don't think there's an 80% blockage of your neighbor's house. I stood in his main bedroom. I didn't get to his living room, I don't think. I think I was primarily just in the primary bedroom. But I do think there's some impact to what would be a really clean view, because not only is he having to skew his view now outward, as opposed to straight down through the corridor. There's a wall and then there's the extension. So in my opinion, you're super close. But I would like to hear what my other board members have to say. But when I was there, I noticed that I guess it's your area 1 on your main level here. And it's a quite nice large area. It looks like a primary and a large primary bath and closet. It feels like there's an opportunity. You did great to do the Juliet balcony, which I think are really helpful when you're close to another home from a privacy perspective. As nice as it is to be able to go out there, in the movies with your cup of coffee and thinking you're going to stare at the hillside. You never will, but just so you know. But it's nice that you can get the doors open and a breeze in there with that without having a privacy issue. I feel like if you can pull it back and we can split the difference on not having to go back to a potential variance reapplication, a new drawing, is if you could give a 5-foot buffer to that room, open that corridor up, so come back 5 feet. approximately, I'll let my board members, I don't like to always give feet. There was a stake in the ground when I was there that looked pretty promising. I didn't measure it out. I think it was stake 33. 33.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that articulates that back area. It gives him a little, your neighbor, Brian, a little open to that corridor. I don't think your whole program needs to retreat. I think it's just that area one. And, I don't know how you would then skewer that back to adjusting your bath and your closet to have to reconfigure to give yourself a little, and your door that brings you into area 6. Anyway, I think it's a I know it feels like a lot when you're building your dream home, but it feels like that's a happy medium and still gives you good space, outdoor, and maybe you can somehow find a way to intersperse your bedroom into the other larger deck area there, because that it's so close to your main area. Maybe your door shifts or something. So that's my perspective. I'm going to wait before I say approve or no approval and hear what my other board members have to say. Perhaps they have an insight that I missed, but that's my first thoughts.
I'll go next because I can pretty much echo verbatim what Board Member Coveney said, and I was at the site with her, so we spoke extensively on this project. And I had walked down to the bottom where the pool is and located that stake 33 is pretty much and I showed it with you. We walked down there together, Denise and I. And that's about where, when I was standing at Brian's house, where there could be the happy medium. If the house was being pulled back to that 33 stake, I think with that, I can find view equity to be, it's really close right now. I'm kind of torn because if you have two members, and I'm not going to speak for them, but if you have two members that want to approve this project tonight, I can see, okay, yeah, maybe not. For me, I would like to see a happy medium where you brought it back to that 33 marker. What that feet is, I have no idea. Not yet, no. Okay,
Let me go next, because what I'm sensing from the three board members have talked is that there's a little bit too much program too forward that cuts a little bit too much into Brian Gianson 1417 view. This is the way I look at it. You're asking for a lot of program. You're asking for 3,800, and I just from walking the houses, that's the biggest house. I saw your percentages. I didn't get to study them. I didn't have them before. But even looking at them, they're all under 3,800, at least most of them are. So you're asking for a lot of program, which is definitely having a significant impact in the view from ceremonial rooms. Also, your house is out of character for the community in the sense that you're doing a 20-foot setback when most of the houses have a 10-foot setback. This project screams for a variance for the minimal impact, but we can't require you to do a variance, and we can't deny a project for your failure to get a variance. But the way I look at it is pretty simple. You're asking for an oversized, or a house that has a lot of program for this lot, which causes an interference with whether it's 80%, I have photos, it's pretty big, including of the most significant whitewater. In other words, there's more whitewater that's being blocked rather than, you can still see whitewater to the right, but it's not as significant a view. And I think I believe the neighbor said it's white, yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn. I did not see Catalina there, so it may be a different project. But the point is that I would not approve this project with that much square footage that interferes. I require, I'd want to pull back. I probably want to pull back more than my colleagues, but I definitely want to pull back. If you want that program, and I'll make a pitch that it's kind of the right thing to do for your neighbor and make it consistent with all the other homes or most of the other homes in the neighborhood, is come back with a variance request. I can't tell you how we're going to decide it, but I think that, I think that's the right thing to do. You get all your program potentially, but I can't support the project given the amount of the program at 3,800, which I think is large for the neighborhood, given the interference with the views at 1417. So that's where I am for deliberations. So I'd like to hear what other people think of that. Eber?
Chair, I agree with your sentiments. I think that there could be an added benefit to doing it, bringing it back. Obviously, it might take a little bit longer going through the process. I'm curious to see if we could tentatively approve a variance tonight. No, we'd have to. Yeah, I want to look at the bright side of it, of bringing it back. Maybe that leads to more lower level play space. Where you mentioned, the new kids. So additional 10 feet of that lower level area would really go a long way for activities and play area, playground, while also preserving your neighbor's view and being a great neighbor. I think I want to approve this tonight. It's a beautiful design. I don't have a problem with the mass and scale. I think it's thoughtfully designed. It might be one of the bigger sizes of homes in the neighborhood, but I think the lot calls for it. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Bring it back as quick as you can with the variance, and I could approve that.
Chair,
Go ahead. I want to hear what the other three board members have to say. Louis, you want to start?
yeah, so let me ask the applicant. Can I ask the applicant team a question?
Sure.
I guess, if we're talking about like from the neighbor's perspective, kind of where the master bedroom is and below it, would there be a willingness to shift that whole program forward on that side of the, entryway or hallway? So it gives a little more articulation to the front, but you keep the full square footage, so to say, but you maybe seek the variance by moving that forward into the space where it would open that angle up just a bit more. Would there be a willingness to explore that from the applicant team?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's fair to talk about it. I don't want to put any pressure on getting a variance. That's beyond what we're talking about. This is the sense I'm getting. So we can kind of maybe cut a little bit to the chase here. I'm hearing a majority of the board saying they want to pull back somewhat to improve view from 1417. In addition, I'm hearing a request from these three board members, and maybe you join, to consider a variance, but we can't force you to do that. It should be able to preserve more of your program and not and be a good neighbor. And again, you're not obligated to do that. But that's kind of where I think we are. I think you've heard the comments from each of the board members. It's not going to get approved tonight, I don't think, unless I'm misreading the board. But I give you time to go back, maybe, try to think about what we said and either make modifications or think about that variance. And I kind of hope you do the variance. You guys, I'm kind of mean to cut you off.
No, I think you summed that up pretty well.
No, I do have a question for you, Chair. You mentioned, if I understood you correctly, that you wanted them to go after the variance to bring it closer because that's how the rest of the neighborhood tends to be in some parts of it. But then you said the program was too large. So in my opinion, when you bring things forward like that to the street and you have a large program, it's mass and scale becomes an issue.
No, the reason that I raised the large program wasn't a mass and scale. In fact, I think it's a beautiful home, and particularly from the street level. It's my view is, given that it's larger on the larger side, it interferes with the view with 1417. It needs to be scaled back.
So you're fine with the square footage, you just want it brought forward?
I think if it didn't have an impact on view, it would be fine, or I would be fine on Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with the square footage. It's like, let me give let's say all the houses in the neighborhood are 3,000 square feet, right? But somebody wants to put in a 3,500 square feet, 500 feet of which interferes with the view, but otherwise it's not a bad mass and scale. I might say, maybe you need to go back to 3,000.
Chair, can we hear from the applicant to see kind of which way they're leaning? Because I think if they had something proposed to the existing structure, maybe we'd be willing to hear it.
Since you requested, but I'm hearing a lot of different ideas from the board, and I don't want to make those kind of major I think they, even though there may be minor modifications, that's something that would need to be restaked and looked at.
I concur with my board member. I think I'd like to hear this from them. They might say we don't have any input. We're
Okay, yeah, the question to you is, do you have something that you want to suggest?
I don't have anything that I would like to suggest at this moment. We need time for consideration of your comments. But I did want to point out, because we were at the site and we did identify a stake specifically that we were discussing. That stake is not located where our staking consultant put it. So I can't guarantee the location of where that is. It has been moved.
Yeah,
So
now
just-
that I was looking at the plans when he had mentioned stake 33, it's identified the building corner, which is separate from what I think you guys were looking at.
Maybe that was where, did Brian say he put?
Yeah, I think
Maybe
Brian
that's
put a-
where Brian
put a
put
10-foot
the,
offset
Yeah.
with a pink flag.
well, either way, you know where the stake is. Go do a little measuring and
But
figure
is-
out if you want to come back with a reduction or a variance.
Chair, I think we got consensus for continuation.
Okay, how long a continuance do you want? And then we'll try to fit you in on a date.
We could maybe get them in November 6th.
I'm sorry?
Oh, never mind. I'm mumbling.
Yeah,
We could do November 6th.
okay, we'll do,
No, I can't. We can't do November 6th. I can't do November 6th. So we had discussed the 13th of November or December 10th. Those were the two available.
how are the calendars? Bill, which one? Or are those filled?
I guess I would prefer November 13th. There are about 11.
How many
items on the
matters are on the
agenda.
13th?
11 on the 13th right now.
13?
Yeah.
I don't want
No,
to.
no, I'm sorry. On the 13th, there are 11 items.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, but they might be like what we had today. which are
11
quick. They might be some quick items like we had swimming pools and, except for
Items is
chimney.
a lot.
chimney things.
What's on the December?
On December 9th, we have 9 items.
I would prefer December 9th.
I'm sorry, December 11th is 9 items.
December 11, 9 items. That too. Let's put it over, my suggestion is December 11 and then not add anything more to that calendar. And I'll make a motion. I move that we move item 5.8 for 1426 Morningside Drive to December 11,
Correct.
2025.
And then when would they need their application in, submitted?
Does that work for you, Nancy?
We would need the resubmittal by October 22nd.
Very good.
Deadline.
Do I have a second?
I have a second. I'll second that.
Please call the roll.
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has been
Thank
continued
you very
5-0.
much. See you in December. With that, we're going to take you want me to take a 10-minute break and then we'll do the last item. I'm calling the board back in session. The next item we have. Okay, the next item we have is agenda item 5.9 for 31526 Valito Road, Design Review 24-0658, Coastal Development Permit 24-0657. Ex parte, please.
Chair, I had a site visit and spoke with Ann Christoph. Oh, and correspondence with Steve Coratani.
I had a site visit and met with the neighbor, Mr. Chamberlain.
I had a site visit and met with both neighbors to the east and spoke with Ann Christoph.
Louis? Did we lose him?
He may have been due to the time delay or the
break?
recess. He may have lost track of time.
All right, let me do my ex parte and then we'll wait for Louis. My ex parte was I met with the architect Adele Chang, and then I met with Jeff Chamberlain uphill, and then the other neighbor joining him I met with. And I spoke to Ann Christoph. Louis,
here.
Good. Ex parte on item 5.9.
Hang on one second. I gotta get to my notes. Went to the site, spoke with Ann Christoph and the neighbors that were up on Totem. And
All righty.
spoke with Steve Coratani as well.
Okay, very good. Heather, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Gibbs and DRB members. I'm Heather Stevens, Senior Planner. So item 5.9, the applicant is requesting design review and a coastal development permit approval to demolish an existing single-family residence and a detached garage and construct a new two-story, 3,811 square foot single-family residence with elevated decks and a two-car garage, one uncovered parking space, site grading to accommodate the home's footprint and driveway, and new landscaping. Next slide. Next slide.
Sorry, I'm having technical
There you go.
difficulties.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The 14,071 square foot project site is a residential property developed with a single family dwelling and a detached garage, which is accessed from Valito Road. The site slopes downward at the rear of the property with a small area mapped with a watercourse setback. Next slide. The project was first heard on July 11th, 2024. With the applicant's consent, the Design Review Board continued the project to September 26th, 2024 to allow the applicant to incorporate the board's design direction. Prior to the September 26th meeting, the Community Development Department received a letter stating the existing dwelling and the subject property were potentially historically significant. A copy of the letter is included as attachment 12. On December 26th, staff requested continuance to the November 14th DRB meeting to allow for further evaluation of the property. An additional continuance was requested to December 12th, and the project was tabled at that meeting. So this will be the second substantive hearing for this project. Next slide. I'll begin my presentation with a review of the proposed project and the applicant's request. An overview of the evaluation of the potential historicity of the property will follow. A detailed discussion of the historic resource evaluations conducted is provided in the staff report beginning on page 5. As stated, when the project was reviewed on July 11th, 2024, the board provided direction for revisions to the project design. In response to the board's comments, the following revisions, thank you, the following revisions have been made. Previous slide, please. Thank you. The structure was rotated approximately 15 degrees, and it's shown here highlighted in blue. The previous proposal is shown on the site plan with a red dashed line. A third covered tandem parking space was removed from the plan. A proposed uncovered parking space is shown outlined in a solid blue line toward the top of the site plan. Next slide. The upper level area over the garage was pulled back, and additional materials, textures, and colors were added at each elevation. Next slide. Frosted privacy glass was added to bathroom number 4. The proposed deck between bathroom 2 and 3 was removed. The balcony from bedroom 3 was removed. A 5-foot frosted glass privacy panel was added at the deck on the left or south elevation, and the proposed landscaping height and width is specified on the landscape plan. Additional revisions have been made to the landscape plan at the neighbor's request, which includes adding 2 redbud trees at the southwest corner of the site to be maintained at a height of 15 feet. The existing hedge will be maintained at a height of 8 feet. The conditions of approval have been revised to specify these height limitations. Based on these revisions, the board should determine whether the privacy and view equity criteria have been met with the current design. Next slide. So this property is located on a remaining portion of an original 40-acre land grant. The land was granted to William F. Egan through the Homestead Act in 1910. The existing residence was constructed beginning in 1909 and built out in 1928. The historic consultant's assessment has stated that the period of significance is circa 1909 to 1928, which has been established, which indicates the date when the original cabin was constructed to the date when the last significant addition was added in 1928 by the Egan family. This was also the period when William Egan claimed the homestead and was actively farming the land. A portion of the original 40-acre property was sold to the South Coast Water District in 1937 and 1944 as a water reservoir. On June 21, 1948, tract number 1243 was recorded, which subdivided the southeast portion of the original homestead lot north of West Street into 25 lots on Paseo del Sur, Rico Road, and Valito Road. The remaining developed parcels that surround the subject property were sold off at various times. The undeveloped area in the northwest part of the original homestead is now owned by the County of Orange. Next slide. As previously stated, on September 19th, the Community Development Department received a letter stating the existing dwelling on the subject property was constructed in 1910, that the house is the oldest in South Laguna, and possibly the last remaining homestead house in the city of Laguna Beach. Again, a copy of a letter from the South Laguna Civic Association from 2022 regarding the potential historic significance of the property was also provided with that letter. Next slide. To assess the historic significance of the property, several reports have been prepared to determine whether it is eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places and/or the California Register of Historic Resources, or whether it is a historic resource under the California Environmental Quality Act. Next slide. A resource eligible for the California Register must meet one of the criteria of significance and retain enough of its historic character or appearance or integrity to be recognizable as a historic resource and to convey the reason for its significance. Next slide. The criteria for the California Register are: 1, that it is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of local or regional history or the cultural heritage of California or the United States. Or number 2, that it's associated with the lives of persons important to local California or national history. 3, it embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, region, or method of construction, or represents the work of a master, or possesses high artistic values. Or 4, it has yielded or has the potential to yield information important to the prehistory or history of the local area, California, or the nation. Next slide. Historic resource assessments were prepared for the property by 2 qualified historic consultants: Historic Resources Group, retained by the Community Development Department, and Chronicle Heritage, retained by the applicant, to evaluate the subject property for potential historic significance and eligibility, again, for the National Register or the California Register. The historic consultants reached differing determinations as to whether the property is eligible for listing. HRG determined the property to be significant under the California criteria number 1, whereas Chronicle Heritage concluded the property did not appear eligible for listing on the National or California Register. Thus, the city requested an independent professional evaluation of the historic resource assessment reports by a third qualified historic consultant. GPA consultants conducted a thorough and objective analysis of the reports. GPA did not find sufficient evidence to support that the property meets the eligibility criteria for listing in either the California Register or the National Register. As such, the property does not meet the definition of a historic resource under CEQA, nor does it appear to qualify as a historic resource under the City of Laguna Beach's current historic preservation ordinance, which requires that properties be either formally listed, eligible for listing, or voluntarily nominated by the property owner. Next slide. Staff supports project approval, noting the facts affirming the required findings can be made. However, given prior direction, the Design Review Board should deliberate on privacy and view equity and historic preservation matters to determine if these have been achieved or if other project changes or conditions of approval are warranted. Further, the board should determine whether the property meets the definition of a historic resource per CEQA. Next slide. If so, staff recommends the board adopt Resolution 24-0658, approving Design Review 24-0658 and Coastal Development Permit 24-0657, and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15303. This concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Any questions of staff? Louis?
I'm good with questions.
Okay. With that, I open the public hearing. You have 5 minutes. Yeah, board
Okay,
members.
got it.
We're board members.
Yeah, board
That
members.
other group is called commissioners.
Okay. Good evening,
We
board
don't
member.
talk about them here. Just so.
My name is Adele Chang. I'm with LCRA, the architects for the project. This is our second hearing on this project. At the last hearing, we listened hard to what the commissioners had to say, as well as neighborhood input, and we have made changes. Heather has gone over them, but I wanted to, next slide, please, also quickly review them with you. We are a parcel that is surrounded on 3 sides by 2-story homes. And our proposal is in full compliance with all the zoning ordinances. And with this submittal, we have reduced the project size by 200 square feet. Next slide. Next. And the existing house is a very rundown cottage. There have been neighbors who have expressed a concern for it being a fire hazard, and those who have visited the site have seen kind of the condition that it is in. Do I get a few seconds for technical difficulties?
Yeah, hold the time until the next slide comes up. But you've been having it. All right, it's back on. Resume.
Okay, next.
Resume time.
So some of the things that were done, we have greatly reduced the second floor massing so that we preserve views from the house uphill on Totoloma, and they currently overlook our garage area the same way they look over the neighboring 2-story homes. And we have also, well, we noted some ridge heights. I won't get into it. Next slide. So again, you can see what we've done, variations in height. We have further lowered the building pad, and the second floor has seen a very large reduction in square footage. Next. And we have taken off all the second floor covered decks, thus greatly reducing the mass. And the rear deck used to be 12 feet wider than it is currently proposed. Next. And side windows, any windows that had views into the downhill neighbors are now frosted glass. Next. Again, we met with the neighbors, the Chamberlains uphill from us, and the only comment they made at that time was to move the AC units to the other side. So we have done that. Next. And then just last week, we met with the Bosniaks and the
another neighbor downhill from us. And we have agreed, as Heather has said, to plant 2 trees at the corner to be maintained at 15 feet or higher, and then to maintain the hedge that has been planted at 8 feet. Next. But on the same day that I was there to meet with board members, I learned that the neighbors uphill, the Chamberlains, had an issue with privacy. I haven't heard this before, and I wish they had brought it up earlier, because the story posts have been up for a full year, and they've been aware of what was proposed for a whole year because of this 1-year delay. And nevertheless, I saw their concern, and we had originally proposed a tree to be kind of at that upper left corner, and we would like to add another tree. When I spoke with Mr. Chamberlain, I suggested the adding of trees, and I didn't look at the landscape plan at that time, but there was already a tree there, and we would like to just add another one. And we'd be open to, species that are non-deciduous and so forth, as long as they meet the city's planting palette. Yes, we've had more conversation with the downhill neighbors. They've been more reaching out more. And we've been available by email, phone, and so forth. And we've responded to their concerns to the point where they now support the project. And I just wish I'd known about the other concern earlier.
Your time's up, so we'll come back to you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, I forgot to introduce somebody next to me, but I guess he can be introduced later.
We got a lot of people, so I can't wait to learn about him. We'll do that when we come back to you.
Okay, sorry
All
about
right, I open it to the public. Please, form a line or get in the seat where you can come up. State your name. First of all, how many people are going to be speaking? 1, 2. I'm going to give 3 minutes here, just because we haven't had a lot of long matters, but I'm going to stick you to it. So if you can get done early, great, but I don't want to cut you off, but I will once the red light shows. So with that, Ruben, you're up.
Thank you. Ruben Flores, long-term resident here. We're losing our historic feeling in Laguna Beach. Sure, the new coffee place across from Main Beach looks nice, and it's crisp and it's fresh, but gone is the old wooded facade that lent the idea of a village. We look at the little shack house, and people call it a dilapidated wood structure that was across from the Suzy Q, and something like this may go up again. So when you go to Europe, when you go to other states, other cities, it's nice to walk along a street and then all of a sudden you see something that doesn't necessarily fit in, and then that historic sign is up there and it says, we saved this because we recognize that this was important to the history of our town. Whether or not the nation says that, whether or not the state says that, we say that. I mean, just Google the guy's name and he's #1 Laguna Beach. And we're going to erase that because we're going to put something that belongs in Irvine there. Not to say that isn't a beautiful piece of architecture, but does it belong there to replace what is history of Laguna Beach? I don't think so. And you are probably, or you and the other commission are probably the last people that get to save some of these pieces. And so the burden really is on you and sleeping at night, knowing that we're going to lose some of these things that are so important to our history. And we can't, I mean, we're coming up on our 100-year anniversary and we're going to be able to say, yeah, we had some cool places. They're not here anymore, but they were cool. So really, it's important. It's important that we not let these things disappear, because one by one, they will be replaced. And those things that they're being replaced with aren't repugnant, but they aren't the history of Laguna Beach. And the history of Laguna Beach can only be stated once. and it's stated in the 1910s or the 1950s or the 1920s. You can't rebuild that. So save it. Thank you.
Can I ask you some questions?
Absolutely.
Well, so, because I don't want to have him come back to the podium.
Yeah, but if we start asking questions.
I would
we're-
just,
I didn't use my 3 minutes.
Okay, so I've been on a few tours with you or with other people. It's mostly been around the village where we go around and identify unique architecture and the history. But I haven't been on all of them. So my question to you is, has this house ever been on any of those tours?
Yes.
It has.
Yeah. It has.
A history tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's so unique. How could you not go visit it?
Right, but has it been on one of those tours?
Has
that
been
you
on
had?
one of my tours. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We start at the community garden and then we walk. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you for asking.
Next speaker, please.
I am Diane Lehman at 31521 Toto Loma Lane. And my house, I can see that whole beautiful house. I'm ready to cry because I don't want to lose the history of the city that I live in. And every morning when I wake up, I say, what a lovely home that's still there. The original garage from the farm is still there on that property. If you look up any of the pictures we have sent, it would be dreadful for you to have a new house being built on something that is so beautiful, even the property. Also, I have concerns about my view. I am losing all my view from my backyard where I have lived since 1989. I am losing 75% of my view from my bedroom. And these are the two places where we spend most of our time. I love it in the yard because I can hear the ocean and I can see it. I'm also concerned about my privacy that I mentioned the last time that I met with you, because I am losing my privacy too. And I am concerned about the geological things. They are going to be digging deeply into that Valido because one of our neighbors sold the egress to him, and that could impact the foundation of my house. And I would like to see studies done. Please don't get rid of a beautiful property that has so much history with a beautiful family, the Egan's. And I hope that you read Lee's report that was over 200 pages. She came here personally on Monday to deliver it to each one of you. And I would like to also thank Ann Kristoff and George Weiss for their support, and the South Laguna Civic Association and Village Laguna. They are standing strong with us to keep the history of Laguna Beach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Give it to Paula and she'll distribute it.
Should I wait or should I go? Sorry?
I'm sorry?
Should I wait or should I go? Okay.
Yeah, as soon as she hits the button,
Oh,
go
I-
ahead.
okay, gotcha.
Go ahead, you're on.
Okay, my name's Jeff Chamberlain. I met some of you very recently and also last year when this was going on. Thanks for coming by our place. As Adele mentioned, I also met with her yesterday. I regret not reaching out sooner. I assumed the process was once stakes were up, you came here and talked about it. So that's my ignorance there. But we did have a nice conversation. I hope that we continue to have conversations like that going forward. As you all know, this is the second iteration. The first one, we had very little privacy concerns. The neighbors did, and so the house was rotated as a result. We understand why they asked for that, but as a result of the house being rotated and redesigned to improve our neighbors' privacy, the house now partially faces our home, and several windows and a new balcony are facing our home as well. The new balcony, which is it's visible in the center of the photos that I gave you, has a direct line of sight into our daughter's bedroom. and it's closer to us than the original balcony that led to the redesign. So we can also now see into the bedroom window of multiple vantage points of their house, including from our daughter's bedroom or from our living room. So while we appreciate the efforts to protect our neighbors' privacy, it has come at the expense of our own. We believe a design can be found that respects everyone's privacy and kindly requests that the plans be revisited with this in mind. As Adele mentioned, one of the solutions we talked about yesterday was a vegetation solution. I appreciate that. We like looking at vegetation, but I would also ask that we also are considered for a structural solution similar to what our neighbors were granted last time. Again, we didn't have privacy concerns last time because the house was aligned in a way where we were really getting just one tiny window, but now we're getting quite a bit and a balcony looking into our windows. So I guess that's it.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Pass these out, please. I asked for some slides as well. And I'm speaking for the South Laguna Civic Association as well as myself. We have been working since 2002 on a history of South Laguna, and we've produced a lot of documents, and the map that I'm passing out was in your packet, but it was probably small. And so this is the printed out version of that homestead map. And the staff mentioned that GPA did not see sufficient evidence of the historical criteria. So one of the things that was mentioned is that they don't know much about the other homesteads, the context of this homestead. And I think GPA understandably was not aware of the work that we have been doing all this time because our book hasn't been published yet. So this is a pre-publication copy of the map that we did that shows all the homesteads in South Laguna, and a similar map could have been produced for all of Laguna Beach as a whole. But we took an 1885 topo map, and that showed the location of structures at that time. And on that map, you'll see little red dots for different homesteads that were documented on this map. And then we took the USGS map for the more recent homesteads and plotted all those buildings that were shown. So many of the homes, almost all of the homesteads, had some type of structure. We don't have a way of knowing what those structures were, but there they were on that map. None of those structures exist except for the Egan structure. So if you look at number 6, that's the Egan structure, this little tiny red dot that represents the house that was existing in when the USGS map was created. So this is the kind of research, there's different levels of research that are done. HRG did enough research to recommend to the city that this was a significant, historically significant property. If you do a giant term paper on that house, there's so much more information. If you do this kind of mapping, there's more information. So if there's more information needed, let's ask for it. Let's ask GPA to HRG to review what GPA thinks is needed to document this, because it clearly is historic, it's important, and we don't want to lose this house and its surroundings. Condition is not a criteria of evaluating historic significance.
Okay, you're done.
Thank you.
Can I ask Ann a question? Just because I'm learning about history.
All right, let's keep them short.
I know, but she's such a plethora of history.
Go ahead.
Of all these homesteads, back in, I think it was 1980, 81, they did the survey of historical. Do you know if any of these were around then in 1981?
I believe that the Robert Anderson one
Right.
was
Okay,
existing
and it
because
wasn't able to be
Well, at that time, at the time that tract was done, we hadn't done this research.
Got it.
We didn't understand the significance then.
And then the other question I have, did you say you started in 2002, for 23 years
Yes.
on South? Okay, just checking because I thought that.
And isn't she done yet?
It's like,
Why
man,
isn't that book
wow.
out?
I think it's fair to say that Ann Christoph knows more about the history of
I love
Laguna
it.
than
Okay.
anyone else
Thank you, Ann Christoph.
alive.
Of South Laguna, but most likely.
Okay, South
Okay.
Laguna.
Jane Jans knows an awful lot about the whole city.
Okay,
Yeah, she's still around. Okay.
thanks so much. Thanks so much for your input. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Yurka. I'm a resident of South Laguna, and I also serve on the Heritage Committee, but I'm not representing that body here tonight. I want to underscore the points that Anne made. This is a very significant property indeed. I also wanted to reiterate that the GPA review of the HRG report, I know these initials can be confusing, did not find that there isn't sufficient evidence, but that HRG had not marshaled sufficient evidence. What I believe the city should have done in that instance, because HRG was the city's consultant, is return to HRG and said, we need you to beef up the report, is please produce this, the information that is requested, because the goal here isn't to comply with CEQA, although that is something that we should aspire to do, but it's also to really figure out, is this property historically significant? I hope you had a chance to review the letter that was written by Francesca Smith. She's an architectural historian with 40 years experience. She wrote it as a volunteer because she spends a lot of time in Laguna Beach and is very interested in and committed to preserving the history here. In that letter, she did the research that GPA asked for, which was what you do for especially the National Register, is you need to compare it to other like properties. I do not know why HRG didn't do that, and they should have. I know why the Chronicle didn't do that, because they found it not historically significant. But as Anne mentioned, there are no other extant homestead properties, original houses in Laguna. To our knowledge, there are no extant homestead properties in Orange County. And there weren't that many to begin with. And Francesca Smith looked at properties that might be equivalent. So for example, the Majeska house in Santiago Canyon, that was bought from as a homestead property, but the original homestead was encased in the house that was built there. So that has lost any significance for its association with homesteading. Richard Egan had a homestead in San Juan Capistrano, and he has a house on the National Register, but it was land that he purchased separately near the Mission. That is not significant in relation to homesteading. This property is very rare and very unique, and Francesca Smith found it is absolutely eligible for the National Register and the California Register. I believe it to be true as well, and I hope that you will prevent its demolition and allow the applicant to come up with a proposal to rehabilitate and expand.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your input. Next speaker.
My name's Nelda Stone. I'm a long-term resident of our town.
Could you
and
pull the
I'm
microphone?
here at the-
Pull the microphone down so we can hear you.
Should I start over?
There you go. I want to hear what you have to say.
Probably.
There you go. Much better.
Anyway, so my name's Nelda Stone. I've lived here a long time, but I'm here as that. I'm not an architectural historian, but I managed the local history collection for our local library for a number of years until my retirement a couple of years ago. And I also sit on the board of the Laguna Beach Historical Society. As you know, Laguna was from the downtown area through South Laguna was homesteaded. It was not part of the surrounding large land grants, but this relatively small strip of land was open for homesteaders. So this home before you tonight is the last original homestead house from that period. If it's destroyed, we will lose that last tangible piece of evidence of that important period. So I urge you to trust the facts that HRG has presented, even though they may need some augmentation. And also the backup that Francesca Smith has written to you, please take into account her comments as well. And please do not allow this important historic structure to be demolished. Thank you very much.
Thank you much. Any other speakers?
Hi, my name is Lisa Boschnak. I live at 31538 West Street, where the house, I guess this house is in our backyard. I just wanted to express my support for the project. We met, with Adele and they, worked on our privacy concerns from our master window. So from that, they were pretty easy to work with. As to the historic part, it's kind of hard because you can't see this you can't see this house from the street at all. And then at least in the time that we've lived in our house, before it went for sale, this property, the gentleman who, his mom owned the house next to us, lived there. And then when it came for sale, there was no mention of any historic nature. So, I struggle with, obviously we'd like something behind us that's like nice and improved. And right now the house in its current condition is literally, at least when we saw it when Kevin lived there, you literally stepped through the floor and fell through. And now it's just, just out there, it's by the canyon, it's kind of a fire danger. But I guess it speaks to the more of the historical significance of just Laguna in general, and property owners. I understand, if stuff is historic and people want to save it, but it was for sale. And how come none of this came up when, the property was able to be turned over? That wasn't reported by the person that sold it, so if someone wants to preserve it, they could have, purchased it at that time before, they did and stuff. So, I just find it's kind of hard in wrestling with the history and stuff. Obviously, Laguna looks completely different than it does now. A lot of our houses shouldn't even be there and stuff. But, as it currently stands, I'm not really sure how it was on a tour. But again, I haven't lived here that long, so I couldn't speak to it. But there was someone living there. And I can't imagine he just opened his house for people and you can't see it from the street. So it's not like, some of the things you go by in the village and downtown where you can literally see it just walking as a passerby. No one can see it except all of us that, surround it and stuff. So I'm just here to support the project and hope you guys feel that way as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Not seeing any. I return it to the applicant for 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Richard McDonald with Stoner and Carlson LLP. I'm the attorney for the property owner. And I'm here specifically tonight to address this whole question of the historic nature of it. I think there's a couple of points. I think you said I had 3 minutes?
3 minutes, you're on.
3 minutes, and that's a lot of testimony to rebut in 3 minutes, but let me just make a few simple points. The first is that on July 11th, when staff came before you, they recommended a categorical exemption. Nobody behind me showed up to contest that at that time. And the matter was then continued to September.
Hold on a second, stop the time. Enough of that. I don't want to see any more facial expressions, no more nodding, or you're going to have to leave. Okay, it's very distracting to board members. Okay, back on the time.
The matter was continued then to September, and only 3 days before that hearing did one person submit a letter on September 19th. And that person then worked with HRG, which raised for us serious credibility questions about the HRG report, which is why we asked for an independent report. In fact, if you look at your staff report on page 5, it clearly states HRG worked with Ms. Christoph to obtain information regarding the history of the site. Ms. Christoph provided corrections to historic details within the report. Further, if you look at attachment 9 to your report, to your staff report, HRG itself said, although HRG's findings were unchanged in the updated report, the research was expanded and fact-checked by local historian and landscape architect Ann Christoph. in my 40 years of practice, I've never seen a professional historic resource consultant subcontract out to the local person who's already staked out the position. That is why we asked Chronicle to do an independent report, and Chronicle's first analysis was, wait a minute, they've limited the scope of their report to just South Laguna. South Laguna's only been part of the city since '87. We should be looking at all of Orange County. And if you're talking about Homestead, which goes back 50 years, we should be looking at that entire time period. And they did. And it was extensively researched without input from anybody to conclude, no, this is not meeting the level of criteria that's outlined in their report. And their report has very specific standards that are required, which the third consultant, GPA, looked at. And what GPA concludes is that HRG doesn't even figure out how, yeah, it's old, yeah, it's there, but how is this connected to the trend under Bulletin 15, which it talks about in great detail, requiring that it is not convincingly demonstrated that the property rises to a level of distinctiveness, rarative, or illustrative clarity to justify significance under the broad theme. So this map.
Your time's up. I think we've all read the reports, and just so you know, they're for our consideration. They're not. We don't have to follow them. We consider them as evidence. The board members have read the reports. So with that said, your time's up. Any questions from the board? You turn on your button.
I've got a question. The 3 reports, were they all paid for by the applicant? The first one was city paid for, second one was a rebuttal.
Heather, do you know who paid for the reports?
The city paid for the HRG reports. The applicant paid for the report by Chronicle, and I believe the city also paid for the GPA report.
And Heather, one more question. Is it typical, I think Ann brought it up, that, once you see, or maybe it was Kathy, they said, why didn't you go to the next step to ask for more detail? Would that be a typical process to go back and they gave you a report, they gave you a detail?
We had a first report, and then again, as the gentleman just stated, additional information was added after Ann had reviewed the report. Then we received the report from Chronicle, and that report, we requested HRG to review that report as sort of a peer review on our behalf so that they could give us feedback on that report. So we didn't feel at that time that going back to HRG again for a 4th report would be prudent. So that's why we requested GPA to do an independent evaluation of all 4 documents. And that's where they came to that conclusion. So we felt going back and forth would, as again, it has been a year since the project was before this board.
Yeah.
So to move it forward and to get to a decision point, we felt that that was the best way to move forward.
And just so I think it's clear to the board, if we don't think we have enough information to make the determination, we could require more.
Okay.
And in my comments, I'm going to be commenting, analyzing all of that. Louis, go ahead.
Yeah, so on that same comment that you just made, Heather, we heard this is the second hearing, right? And at the first hearing, what was the board's direction, or can you, I know it's in the staff report, but can you reiterate like what we sent them off to go look after?
Just so it's clear, Louis, before she does, the historic issue did not come up. So the direction.
Correct.
Yeah, the direction that we gave is in the staff report and the response to it. But if you want Heather to go through that, she can.
Yes, the board's comments were related to the orientation of the building, removing some balconies, adding frosted windows. But at that time, there was no information available to staff in our city records that this property was potentially historic. We did not have any information as to the year it was constructed, and it was never on the old historic inventory that we used to have that was created in the 80s, which is no longer used. So there was, again, very little information in the city files. So when it was continued from July to September, it was purely for redesign to address the privacy and the view equity concerns from the neighbors.
Okay, thanks.
So you pursued historical purely from public comment?
It was initiated by the letter that Ms. Christoph provided to the city on September 19th, I believe, about a week before the September.
Remember, it
hearing.
was pulled because of that letter.
So then, yes, a continuance was requested so that we could request HRG to do their first
So I
assessment.
have a question about this, which is the Mr. Chamberlain's property. As I understand it, the real privacy issue is their daughter's bedroom, which are kind of floor to ceiling windows there. And you're proposing 2 trees. Do you know if it's going to block? And you've got a lot of windows on that side. And I think part of the issue was raised because you accommodated the neighbors down below. You turned the building, and I think Mr. Chamberlain bedroom became much more exposed to the windows on the side and the balcony. I want to understand if there's a landscape solution to this. And you're proposing 2 trees, but unfortunately, maybe there wasn't communications or what have you. Have you analyzed, and I wanted to go talk to him to do that. Did you analyze whether but maybe put it this way. Would you be up for a condition that says you're going to work with staff to come up with a landscape solution to block view of the daughter's bedroom
Yeah.
from from those windows?
Yes. I started by proposing 2 trees, but I need to talk to the landscape. There hasn't been enough time. Only found out yesterday afternoon, but I will talk to the landscape architect and figure out a dense, non-deciduous tree or 2 or even 3 to make it work.
Okay, when we get to deliberations, if that comes up, from my understanding, what you just said, you'd be amenable to a condition along those lines. With that said, any other questions? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to start. Let me kind of first point out, and it's been alluded to. Number one is the reports, I've read them all. And I really appreciate reports. I also very much appreciate this from Mr. I assume Lee Hansen. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a lot of it. It didn't come in until, it is a fascinating document, and thank you for giving me a hard copy because I look forward to reading it. So you've given us a lot of information, and I wanted to point out to MJ that, as I pointed out to MJ, is there enough information for us to make a determination of historic resources or not? If not, then we might ask for more. I happen to believe, from reviewing all the stuff, that there's more than ample information that enables us to make a historic resource determination. The second initial point I'll make is that it is, it is the Negan house. It was built a long time ago. I learned a lot about homesteads. I had no idea. There's no question it's historic, but the question is it protectable? Now, our jurisdiction is really twofold. One is the guidelines. Guideline 6 says historic preservation, which allows us to consider the destruction or alteration to historic resources should be avoided whenever possible. So that gives us the right to look at what are historic resources. Secondly, CEQA, under guidelines section 1506 4.5, makes historic resource, and actually it uses the phrase historically significant, enables us to consider that. If we make a determination, then the categorical exemptions do not apply. The applicant has to go to an initial study. Now, I see they're related. And in fact, I think they're very much related. So if we find it a historical resource within, and I'll get to the standards there in a second. I think Heather did a great job in talking about some of them, but I think we need to be very clear on where I come out and I think would be helpful for other board members to at least understand the parameters. So that's what we're charged with. You know, it's not us saying, God, you know, the Egan House is a wonderful house, it's part of the history of Laguna Beach. No doubt it is, but that's not our job. Our job is whether it's a historical resource. And on that, we have guidance to the National Register of Historic Places and RHP, and to the California Register of Historic Resources. And I've read those. They're very similar for purposes of determining whether we have a historic resource. And that's the phrase I'm going to use both for CEQA and the guideline, the design guidelines. On that, there's basically two relevant, and all the reports are consistent with this. You know, the HRG report, the Chronicle report, and I forget the name of the last one, all look at the two things. They hone in on them, and that's what I'm going to be honing in when I get to my analysis. One is whether and again, this goes to eligibility for those registers. If it is eligible, then I think it's a historical resource. Criteria A under the NRHP reads, there are associated, that the properties associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad parameters of our history. Criteria 1 under the California Register is similar. It says it is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad pattern of local and regional history or the culture or heritage of California. The second one, and by the way, both of these are important, is integrity. It's called historic integrity, but it's all kind of for the same thing. It's historic integrity. It's the ability of a property to convey its significance, and is defined as the authenticity of a property's historic identity, evidenced by the survival of physical characteristics that existed during the property's historic period. And I think everyone agrees it's 1909 to 1928. And I agree with that. In doing that, the National Park Service has come up with 7 criteria or 7 aspects, which seem to be the guiding light under both the state and the National Registry. And those are location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. So if you distill it to the criteria in the reports, they call it criteria 1A, 1 and A, national and California, and the integrity, it narrows the issues about what we need to look at. Now, I think it's fair to say that the experts make those determinations. We're not bound by them. And moreover, it's not rocket scientists. Those words have their ordinary meaning. They're not specialized meaning. And so I want everybody to understand that just because you're an expert doesn't mean you're right. And just because, that only experts can make those decisions as to, whether their location or the setting or stuff is consistent with the integrity of this property from a historical perspective for the property's historic period. I feel very comfortable making that determination, and I'll tell you what my determination is. Now, I'm not going to go through each of the reports because fundamentally, and I will touch on them when I give my analysis, fundamentally, they give us information. It's like evidence at a trial. Experts give evidence at a trial all the time, but the jury has to make the findings of fact. Just because experts say something doesn't mean that the jury, in our case, the board, must follow it. In fact, we can't because we have different views. I found all 3 reports, as well as other information submitted, very helpful in making what is probably the toughest decision that I've made since I've been on this board. And there's been a lot of tough decisions because I care about this town. I think we all do. I think the applicant does. I give the benefit of the doubt to everybody that we're doing it because we care about this town. But people have a right to develop their property. They have a right to a fair analysis and determination. So with all that said, this is where I come down. Just the first point is that we're looking at the eligibility. It's not of the house standing alone, in my view. The house standing alone, in my view, has no historical significance. I mean, we've had historical cases with cottages, which is a broad category. I mean, this was basically construction for a working farm. And one was a small shed, and then somebody said a barn. Another person said they built on in 1928. It was a homestead, right? So the house itself, in my view, doesn't have any historical significance. And in fact, none of the experts said it did, standing alone. So it's not like Hotel Laguna, which in and of itself has historical significance. So when we look at the first criteria A1, whether the property is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad pattern of our history. I must say I concur with Chronicle's views on that issue, that the progression of development over the course, this is from Chronicle, I'm kind of boiling it down, but I think it's a fair statement of what they're saying, and certainly what I view it as, that the progression of development over the course of time has altered the setting, and it does not holistically exclude the feeling or embody once was an active farming homestead. Therefore, any association with homestead was lost over 40 years ago. When I walk to that house, I don't get any feeling of homestead. I just don't. If the house was historic, that's a different story, but that's not what before us. It's the homestead aspect of this house that we have to look at, whether the property is associated with events that made a significant contribution to the broad pattern of our history. And I don't think the house is, I think the homestead is, but the homestead's gone. It's all been developed long ago with other houses. Then we go to integrity. I think, again, it goes to the homestead nature of the property. The requirement is that it must retain enough of its historic character or appearance, i.e. integrity, to be recognizable as an historic resource and to convey the reason for its significance, and thus the word integrity. In other words, you look at it, it must, and we'll get to the factors in a second, it must carry that notion of homestead. I don't see it. Okay, let's go through some of the factors. With the design, or the setting, first of all, the setting. Everyone agrees, including HRG, that the setting's gone. So that factor doesn't support a finding of integrity. I note that you don't have to have all the aspects, but there must be a sufficient number to convey the required integrity. And I believe one factor alone could just nail it in this case setting, because you don't see any homestead property, no farming, nothing. So the setting is not there. The feeling and association, that was also found by Chronicle to be absent. And I just didn't find the argument from our HRG to be convincing. The feeling and association, I get the feeling and association of a very old, dilapidated, not well-built home. And I'll get to that when I get to workmanship. It's falling apart. The windows, they're aluminum, certainly not period piece. I think there was one window from the original period, and it's totally destroyed. It's been rotted from the inside. All the siding is junk. The barn, the doors are not even on. There's nothing that I see from that house that gives me any feeling of its original condition. I also looked in the house. It doesn't either. It doesn't have, I looked at some of the pictures that I think you provided in or one of the reports. It did more, but it certainly doesn't now. Then we go to materials and workmanship, and I'm through, 5 of the factors. I don't see anything special about materials or workmanship that carry any historic value or any relationship to a homestead. In other words, it's nothing special historically. Again, if I saw it, maybe I wanted to see it, but I didn't. We walked all around the property. I walked every inch of that property trying to see, okay, where's the historic nature of this? And I don't see it. And then design. A beach cottage is a design, I suppose, in the broadest sense of the word. But I don't even see any design to this house. I can't tell it's a barn. In fact, it looks like a beat-up building. It's about to fall down. It looked like it was a lean-to that was built. Anyway, I don't want to dump too hard on this. It's just I didn't see, and in fact, the way it was built in pieces, maybe that's part of the historical charm, but it did not create a homestead house in my mind. It created more of a hodgepodge of building without design. So while it's hard for me, and I'll also point out one other thing on design. The National Registry Bulletin 15 is pretty important in my mind. It cautions that a, quote, property must be more than simply associated with a historical trend. It must clearly illustrate that trend to be one of the most important properties associated with it. I just don't see that here. In other words, and I'll sum it up here, to tell this property owner that they have to start from scratch and do who knows what, to a house that is a fire danger, that's dilapidated, that's rotting, that has no, from looking at it, no relation to a homestead, even though it has this important history, I think is asking too much. In other words, it doesn't come close to the bar that's necessary for us to find either the guidelines require that they just scrap this thing and come up with a new design, or that we send them through the whole CEQA process. And I'm not even sure where that will lead. I was a CEQA lawyer back in the day. And so that's an initial study and pages and experts. I'm not even sure where that gets you. But I don't find a historical resource here. So as much as I appreciated all the fascinating history, and I don't deny this house has history, it doesn't reach that high bar of being a historical resource. The last point I'll make before I turn it over is dealing with the view from the Chamberlains. That I really appreciate what you did in accommodating all the neighbors' concerns. You really scaled this back. You accommodated. You listened to us. You followed our direction, and you came up with a product that's really good. I think the loose end is the Chamberlain. It's a downstairs bedroom, secondary bedroom, but if there's a landscaping solution, I want it done to protect the privacy of that room. And I think it's feasible. You've said it's feasible. So I would be willing to support, to approve this project tonight with the condition that staff works with you to come up with a landscaping solution of trees that provides privacy from all the windows on that side of the house to the secondary bedroom downstairs at the Chamberlains. Was that too short? All right, who wants to go? Louis, you want to go next? I heard you probably are asleep, so I'll wake you up.
Maybe let a couple of the other board members go.
Okay.
I'll give it a go. Yeah, I struggle with this one. Hearing testimony from neighbors tonight, I think it allowed me to understand how much this home resonates with the community. I do believe that this home is associated with significant events. There were some comments by Ruben pertaining to the idea of a village, and I think we do have a responsibility to the history of our town. Being that this home, if indeed, what the statements that were made by the community, that this is one of the last original homestead homes, I think that it would be, very important to keep that alive. Unless they can come up with more conclusive evidence to differ from that. I think Anne, with her long-standing history in town, demonstrated clear evidence of historical significance. In addition, Francesca Smith had also identified this as, rare and unique, which would give it, additional governance to preserving this home. I think there's a value here that, from a historical standpoint that we can't lose. A homestead is a big part of our culture as Americans and as Californians as well. The push west, right? The push to the coast was part of this movement. This is a rare and unique property, and I'd like to see it preserved.
MJ?
Okay, I'll go. Thank you for those comments. I agree with Chair Gibbs, and reluctantly in the sense that I hear what you're saying, Amir, and I really respect that. But when I walk through the 4 points here, as Tom did so clearly, it's not significant in my opinion. This is not a significant contribution. And on a national level, it's not significant. On a California level, it's not significant. Architecturally, it's not significant, and it's not of anything unique. It's basically something they threw together to kind of work the land. They sort of live there on and off. I Googled and ChatGPT'd every bit of the Egan's and came up with lots of Egan's, but not this particular family that had any real significant impact on South Laguna, and as noted, South Laguna was not part of Laguna till much later. And I don't think the integrity has been maintained from a homesteading perspective or from an architectural perspective. So I unfortunately cannot support historical. If this was something that was in a more predominant place downtown, first of all, I think we would have addressed this much earlier. It's because it was hidden. Nobody really paid attention to it. Sort of people kind of went, oh yeah, maybe. I mean, to get to this point is, to me, just an unacceptable pressure on the person who purchased this land and hopes of building a home. So I think it's incumbent upon us to be respectful to that as well. Again, if this had been something more significant, I'm kind of disappointed. That's why I was asking you, Ann, about like why are all these gone? How did we get here? Some of these, especially Thurston, there's a name that is significant. I know that name. Egan didn't know. So it's like, why don't we have those? How do we get to that point? So I just don't think it's right that this is our flag in the ground here. So I can't support the whatever I can't think of what I'm supposed to not support, the historical component. Thank you. So moving on to Mr. Chamberlain. Isn't it funny when you try to do the right thing, you get yourself in a pickle? But we really appreciate you taking our suggestions. I think the articulation of the house is much better. I think the way it looks and feels on the land is much better. I mean, you're sort of eating up the buildable aspect of that property to a good amount. I think I was kind of concerned with mass and scale, but it's because it was so boxed. It just felt massive. So I don't know what we can come up with for the Chamberlains. I don't think it's a massive adjustment. I think the trees are a definite component that could help. I didn't know if this is something that could be considered is sort of retracting the mass and scale element, but it would be adding some program to the part of the home that's closest to him that would then extend out, and then the deck would be further back, and those windows along that one room would not be, they'd be slightly more obscured when you look at the point of view or the tangent line from his main living space and his daughter's bedroom out. Now that would be an added, square footage. It would contribute to mass and scale, but to me it would be so minimal, and it doesn't hurt his sight lines, and you don't get into anybody else's view equity issues at that part of the house, I don't think. So if you can find a solution there, and I don't know if we can make it a condition and how that condition would define.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
If trees could block it totally?
I didn't see how that could work, but
that's what I'm saying. I'd like to get this project approved because they've been so long delayed.
Yeah.
And my condition is that the trees have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a privacy hedge, and we just did it at Hillage, and it worked great. It's a privacy hedge that blocks that second bedroom. It's a downstairs second bedroom
No,
from
so
from
we-
any of those windows, from seeing any of those windows.
All right.
I rather than rather than
Expand-
send them back and have
you'd
them
have-
redesign it.
Well, I guess it's kind of up to you guys. But if you're cool with trees, you could, if I think we could get landscaping support for approval tonight. If you want to look at an opportunity to go back to the Chamberlains, add some program and landscaping, I'll leave that to you. But those are my points. And
We would need a continuance if you're going to add program.
yeah, but that's completely your choice.
All
I'd
right,
like to follow that.
Let's hear the others, and then
Yeah,
we can
I
bring it to
concur.
the applicant.
I concur with the chair and board member Coveney on this one. As far as preservation of historical reference, when I was speaking with Ann Christoph, I was in LA traffic, and I don't remember very much of the specifics of our conversation, but I do recall asking her the same question that I asked someone else from the audience, whether that this house had been included on any specific tour. She said no at the time. And then when I returned home, I did the whole ChatGPT and Google and try to find where Village Laguna or other, historical references were ever included this address, and I could not find any. I concur with regardless of whether it was part of a tour or not.
And
Yeah.
we haven't opened the public hearing. Please, no comment. Jess.
I really respect your due diligence on and the depth of scope that you were able to use your attorney background, and I'm mad respect for that. With that, I'm ready to approve this project with there's view equity. I didn't see any view equity issues with the first program, which was in greater scale. So view equity in my mind has been achieved, especially with the reduction in size. Privacy, the only privacy concern with this project was with the Chamberlains, and if landscaping can be added, that would be my suggestion for a condition of approval. And then, so the house, the garage, wood rot is all around the house. The garage is piecemeal. There's woods, if you want to call it wood, there's wood slats piecing together. It didn't look like any farmhouse that I've ever seen, and I grew up on a farm. With that, I can concur with all of the chair's comments and board member Coveney's, and I can approve this project with conditions of approval.
Lewis, you're up.
Well, appreciate the commentary from all the fellow board members and the public, and the evidence provided in the staff report and the applicant's presentation as well. So I think there's been a lot of great reports and information provided for this hearing to make an adequate findings and deliberation across the board. I do lean towards the chair and the vice chair and board member Coveney's deliberation and concur with what they said. I think as you evaluate, there's two different components we've got to talk about as board members. One is the question of the historical, which has been the big part of the dialogue, and I think Chair Gibbs really outlined that wholeheartedly well. And I'll touch on my points on that. And the second one is the design review components that would apply. From the historical questions, really the evaluation, we had two reports that said not historic and one that said potentially. I concur with the two that said it's not significant. And I do so with two main reasons. One, the structure as outlined by Chair Gibbs does not meet the criteria for local, national, or state in the elements that, the prior ownership that prior sold it in 2022 held the property for more than 50 plus years, might have been the original owners. I don't know. But I looked at the sales records, and at any point they could have voluntarily assigned this to some sort of historical component, making it eligible locally, and components of that for the state and national, and that was never done, and nor is that being sought with the application here. So the voluntary nature, I think, throws out a few of the components. Nor do I see an architectural integrity with the current shape, nor did the reports find that. And the reports note the property fails to retain the design or some sort of historical significance in the structure as well. Hold on, I'm getting lost in a couple of my notes. Nor do I find that the materials were very original in the structure. As pointed out by Board Member Gibbs, the windows have all been changed. I think even in some of the reports, there was additions and repairs and maintenance that had shifted over time. And, you know, as I walk the site, there's no real significance of what would make a historical property. I think Board Member Gibbs outlined it really well, that the homestead really was about the farming practices and the elements that they acquired the property through planting the trees and meeting those criteria. That doesn't exist in this neighborhood anymore. The full development that surrounds this makes the property really not visible at all to the characteristics of the community. With the flag lot driveway, this original homestead was maximized for development throughout the decades. And that is the characteristic of the area now. Single family houses that abut the open space, which is a very common characteristic throughout Laguna Beach. So, I mean, in general, I'm supportive of the new construction occurring. If the applicant, in the course of demolition, wish to donate any of the, elements, I think that would be solely on them, but I wouldn't want to make that a criteria. I do think that there are elements of the historical reports that have been brought to light in the recent eras that should be provided to, a local historical, just for the information, because that wasn't provided. I kind of find it somewhat fascinating, but I don't find it significant into the location or the current topography in areas. Okay, so that kind of covers the historical thing from my viewpoint and my findings. But from the house and the DRB aspects, I am concerned for the privacy component of the uphill neighbor of the Chamberlains, as articulated by the other board members. Planting of a further tree could solve that problem. I think when I was looking at the drawings and the plans, I think there could be some more articulation with the actual design that could get like the midpoint of the design to kind of flag open. So the more uphill portion of that bedroom and bathroom would kind of square off towards the rear property line, which would limit that uphill exposure to the Chamberlains in its entirety. But I'm open to the landscaping solution as well. So
Okay.
That's me.
Louis, thank you for your comments. Let me address two things for some limited more. And let me, maybe talk to Ann and the other people of historic interest and the applicant. If you guys could listen to me for a second about the historic. Adele, if there, first of all, the document that that was given to me should definitely go to the Laguna Beach Historical Society. It has, and the work you're doing, Ann, on South Laguna and all that, we don't want to lose that. The pictures are fabulous. I mean, and then the maps of the homesteads, that's really important stuff. The second thing, if there is anything of historical significance on that property that can be saved, not for use in your project, but saved for modernity. I mean, and working maybe with Ann and really look there. I mean, you talked about that other house, the uncle's house. I forget his name, Sternman or something. His house was moved and saved by moving it somewhere. I think I read.
Shrewsbury.
Yeah, that was actually moved. And I thought, well, maybe, I don't know how you move this house. It's so, it's in such bad shape. But this kind of follows Mr. Wiles' comments. If there is some cooperation that there's something in there worth saving, I think that would behoove everyone, including our community, to do that. Now, with respect to the privacy issue, I think it can be solved by landscape. I think you can, but I'm open to, I think, MJ, you and Lewis kind of feel maybe there's some more articulation that can be done. So I think our alternative is to approve it tonight with the condition I talked about, or put it over for a third hearing to work on a landscape plan and maybe some articulation. I would be in favor of the former, but to get the votes, I could go the latter.
Cheers.
I'm okay with the landscape plan.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
Chair, is that
fixed with the
something we
landscape.
would,
I know, but we would need to get either MJ or Lewis to go.
can I just say, is that something we would put forward to Adele? Because it's really, if they know they're going to get approval tonight with what they have and adding the trees, then they might say, okay, as opposed to getting more program.
So so you would go along with the tree solution if that was fine? Okay, do you guys want to
And
go continuous and work on, go ahead, Lewis, before I turn it to the applicant.
You can ask the question, but I do have one other comment that I forgot to mention from my notes.
Well, why don't you do that? Because I think the question to the applicant is going to be the last question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My one point that I forgot to mention was that, in terms of the area being recognized for the Egan family and other, like the Shrewsburys and stuff, there are names of streets that already exist in South Laguna that kind of honor that district or that area that have already been done through the city. The Egan Street is just right up around the corner from this property. So there are some elements where that's been already identified within the course of all the development that's occurred.
Okay. All right. So to you folks, the question is, do you want a continuous where potentially you get more program and do a redesign on that side of the house to reduce the privacy impact, or go along with the landscape solution?
Because of the lengthy delay, I think the owner would prefer to find a landscape solution instead of redesigning and coming back. I mean, that process is another 2 to 3 months. So
Okay,
that would be his preference.
We also, Adele and I have worked together for years. Our kids went to school. We've done lots of projects in other cities with privacy screens. So when you use those words, we know what you're talking about.
All right, I'm going to make a motion and see if we have a second and a vote. The motion is that the board adopt Resolution 24-0658, approving design review 24-0658, and coastal development permit 24-0657 for property located at 31526 Valito Road, and finding said action categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15303, with the condition,
I believe I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I believe I have some language, but I will defer to you.
yeah, I was gonna turn over to you. I have a question for you, but let me get the motion out and see whether it needs to be amended. I think you and I are thinking the same thing. With the condition that prior to permit, there'll be an approved landscaping plan that includes a landscaping solution to the privacy concern of the lower second bedroom of the Chamberlains, such that you cannot see any of the windows on the side of the house, the applicant's house facing that bedroom, or from which that bedroom can be seen, with landscaping. And we leave it to staff and applicant to come up with a landscaping plan that meets that requirement. And are you going to say, do we need any language about the historical resource, was my question?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Because I figured the categorical exemption probably applies. So what was your comment?
Oh, no, that's fine. That language we can put in there. I drafted some language that I thought effectuated the will of the board, but yours suffices as well.
Yeah, let me go with my language, because I think I wanted to make it very clear so that Mr. Chamberlain could rest comfortably that his child's room is not going to be subject to those
The one thing
windows.
that I would just add to that is a qualifier that in the event a solution cannot be made, the issue shall be referred back to the design review.
Okay, I amend the condition to include that language. With that said, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, okay, good. Call the roll, please, Paula.
Coveney- Ms.
You're too
Coveney
late,
second.
Louis.
Board Member Belta,
No.
Board Member Coveney.
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
Chair Gibbs.
Yes.
Motion has passed, 4-1.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all the interested. This was a tough decision for us. You may not agree with it, but I want you to know that input was all helpful. All right. I think we're done. When we're adjourning, what's the next meeting? I always look to Bill because I'm terrible on dates.
We are adjourned until October 9th. at 5 p.m.
We stand adjourned to the 9th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Louis.